their ads, but they have amazing ring lights, and they actually have a mirror light. It's probably about this big, and it has lights all the way around it. Fantastic for makeup. Well, they just launched one that's like window sized, and so I might get it for Elle for Christmas.
That's awesome.
And everybody on the live here, send a couple hearts on the page if y'all can see everybody well that I'm filming.
Yes, please let us know. Please let us know. All right, I'm just going to pull this up in case people engage with us.
Okay.
So that they can ask questions. So, but first, we're just going to start off chatting because really, this was just an excuse to hang out with you.
Perfect.
And now we're filming it. So here we go. Here we go. So we'll just leave that up there. Oh, look at our cute little cartoon faces. How fun was it that I had a cartoon like on hand?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So funny story, my son drew that. My son, Al, who you have not met, is actually trans. And he is, I swear to God, I thought he was going to be like a gay boy his whole life. Like, I really thought that was the vibe. But he is currently dating someone who's non-binary. So, I mean, that's not too far from gay, but living his best life and paying for college with drawing cartoons. So
I love that. I actually got mine because a TikTok baby just sent it to me.
Oh, cool.
They were, and then came in my live and was like, I sent you something, and I have a horrible memory. So the first couple times I was like, oh yeah, I need to remember that.
Right.
And then I finally looked and I was literally like, holy crap, babe. To Sean, I'm like, you need to see this.
That's what's up.
It's amazing. And so
I love it so much. Whoever drew it, it's so cute. And I love your teeth gap. I think teeth gaps are so cool, and I wish I had one. So
fun fact, I had braces. And so the teeth gap was gone, and I did this a lot to get it back. So I've had people on social media like, you need to fix your teeth. And I'm like, no, bitch, I wanted that.
I wanted them. I have a feeling that whoever paid for your braces like didn't like it quite as much, but all right. So hey friends, how are you? Oh, from California. What's going on, my friend? I'm just gonna pull that up so we can reference it. But
okay, that's good.
so I'm just gonna say hi to everybody. Give one more introduction. So for those of you watching on Facebook, those of you watching on TikTok, I'm Leo WT, and this is
Mama Jill Wallace.
But you probably already knew that if you're on the TikTok, because I literally have like 5 followers, and you have a couple.
Yeah.
I hope, but not just because, not for me, but because like there are people who need to hear what we're saying, and so it's my hope that we can build a platform like that. You know what I mean? Because like it or not, and frankly, most days I hate social media. Like, to be honest, it just is so difficult sometimes. But it's become this great platform that's allowed us to be able to build communities through a pandemic.
Yes.
Like, I challenge anybody else to drop something else that grew through the pandemic. But like, your following has exploded. Conversations came into existence, all while the world was like burning around us. So.
Exactly. And I think that's, somebody asked me, they're like, well, haven't you been with TikTok since the beginning? And I'm like, well, what I consider the beginning.
Right.
Because TikTok existed before the pandemic, but I came on the scene at the end of March.
Okay.
After fighting with myself for a bit, through March to get started. And so, but I think that it has just exploded into what it is because we're allowed to see people. And I say what you do all the time when I'm so excited for the growth, but it's not like, oh, did you see me? I'm on TikTok.
Right.
It's literally, if somebody's found me, then somebody who felt alone and unloved and that God hated them now knows different.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing, like, you're not alone. And so I'm really big on naming, like, the conversations that I have every week, and I'm very big on names with a colon in them. I don't know why, it just feels bougie. No semicolon, no comma, like a full colon. And so I titled our talk today, Welcome Home, a story of love, acceptance, and belonging, and creating safe space. So I really think that that's what you're doing, and from the moment that you met me, that you walked into my salon, which I regrettably only like knew of you, and then I literally like pissed my pants when I went home and saw your TikTok following. But from the moment I met you, I just felt that certain, like, we're vibing on the same level. Like, we just want people to know they're loved.
Yes.
And so I don't have any prepared questions, so I'm just gonna bullshit.
No, that's fine.
But so tell me, this is an armchair opinion, because I'm an expert in being queer and you're an expert in loving queers. I have not a ton of other professional experience. But I would just love to know your armchair opinion, why it's so revolutionary for a straight white mom. I'm sorry, I don't know if you identify as straight. But for a white, a rural white straight mom to come on TikTok and say, like, I love you, even, like, not even because if you're gay. Like, I just love you. And gay as part of another sentence,
Yes.
So why do you think in 2020 it's so revolutionary to say that?
I think because the world is starting to stand, I mean, the term is woke, right? We're
Woke.
starting to stand up and say, there's a lot of shit that's wrong.
Yeah.
And even though other people want to say that it needs to be a certain way, we don't have to listen.
Yes.
And we don't have to just conform or be the person on the outside who doesn't fit in and must be messed up because they don't believe everything that conservative Christian white America believes.
Right, and it's become this patent thing, like a nutrition label, like if you are a Christian and you are white and you are evangelical, like this, and this, which is total bullshit. I'm gonna swear a lot. I'm breaking new ground in here. Hey Molly. Oh Nancy.
That's okay.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Oh, you're there. Sorry, I'm looking at my iPad, talking to my iPad on the floor. It's so interesting though, because like being a Christian has been this. Like you vote Republican, you probably carry a gun, you're totes straight, you got 2.5 kids. I'm none of those things. And while for the last decade of my life I was like shying away from the term Christian, I used the term post-Christian to describe myself because I couldn't figure out what I was. But I'm kind of back, and I'm like, I am here and I'm queer. Deal with it. And so I made this video, which you may have saw. I think I sent you that link.
You sent it to me.
Yeah, I made a video for you in TikTok land. It got 10K views, which like sounds kind of marginal, except for the fact that I'm literally nobody on social media. And so I took my tripod outside of my own salon, and I just popped off for 8 minutes and 54 seconds about why it was so egregious that angry McYelly pants pastors from behind evangelical pulpits are literally preaching that gay people are going to hell and that Black Lives Matter is evil. Like, these two issues were convoluted at the moment. And so I basically stood up and I said, nope. Like, you're not the only one that gets a microphone anymore.
Absolutely.
It's 2020, man. And so we're here in 2020 with the message that shouldn't even be revolutionary. Because it was never countercultural to be gay because Jesus didn't care.
Exactly.
So we're here with a message that shouldn't even need to be revolutionary, but literally, I mean, I've seen your lives. People message you every day like, I'm crying, I'm shaking, can you tell me that I'm okay? Mama, I'm going through this. You know, that video that you sent me this morning of the really conservative pastor that one of your kids was dealing with? Like, it is countercultural for you to be you in 2020. You know what I mean?
It is, but this is what I believe in my core. So first of all, I believe that this is my calling. So when they're like, why are you doing this? My answer is because this is what God built me to do.
I literally have to.
I tried saying, he knows. I tried saying no, so I cried. I begged. I literally got down on my face and prayed, like, no, you don't want me to do this. This shit is scary.
It is.
And it still kept coming back to, oh yes I do.
Yeah.
Oh yes I do. You need to talk.
Yeah.
And beyond that, I don't feel, it's there. White men used the Bible to tell black men that God wanted them to be slaves and they should not try to free themselves. And it took white men standing up and saying, oh no, for them to be free. And we're still fighting way past when we should be fighting.
Yep.
I feel it is going to take Christian mothers standing up and saying, this is my child, and God loves them.
Yeah, back off.
And so for the world to change, and that change has to happen. I really feel, I hope it's in my lifetime, and I just really feel that we're on the cusp of that, where just like there's always going to be some jerk in the world who's like, oh, that's an interracial couple, or oh, why are they in this neighborhood? That's always going to happen.
Yeah.
But because I scream a lot, the air turned off. I'm like, I'm perfect in a bar. So I'm like, hey,
what up?
So,
Can everybody hear this?
Mic check.
but I just think that moms need to stand up.
Yeah.
Moms need to come out of the closet. I'm tired of the stories of moms saying, I wasn't there for my kid and I should have been. I didn't stand up for to my husband about my child, and then my child took their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm talking.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we need to stand up.
Yeah.
And
Before
talk
that
about
happens.
the fact that it's okay to be gay.
You're so right. That's so, it's so insightful to me that you brought up the slavery thing, because it's 2020, it's a dumpster fire of a year. Pause. It's been probably one of the best years of my life. I would say a banner year. My wife's a total babe. This is my business. And I've rediscovered my sense of calling. So 2020 working for me. Sorry for everybody else who it sucks for.
Yes.
But in 2020, this year is hallmarked with inequitable treatment of poor people, inaccessibility of healthcare, murdering black and brown trans women, because I don't even want to talk about how many times that's already happened. You know what I mean? And the Black Lives Matter movement. And in just as we're struggling for to get the phrase back, Black Lives Matter, to not be controversial. Still confused why it's controversial.
Yeah.
We're also struggling for it to. We're also struggling for people not to be able to be fired because they're transgender. Like, what year is it? It's 2020. But I love that phrase that you said. Moms need to come out of the closet. Because activism isn't saying you want to be an activist. Activism is coming out of the closet and saying, nope, no more. Not on my watch. And that's basically what you've done. And there's so many people. I can't even imagine the amount of stories that you have of people that have messaged you.
We cry all the time.
I'm a crier too.
I had one this morning, and it's that. I want to cry.
It's okay. I have tissue somewhere.
When I get messaged, I was going to take my life and I found you, one of those would have made all of TikTok worth it.
Yeah.
And I've had hundreds.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same thing that happened with the video that I made of me popping off in front of my salon. People stopped me in the drive-thru and they're like, thank you for speaking up, because like I was the kid in the pew listening to angry McHateful Yelly Pants Pastor. And I'm gonna add an adjective every time. I'm not even drinking. Yo, this conversation gets even better when I drink.
We should make that a hashtag.
We should. I have a feeling we're gonna collaborate a lot, so we'll put that in the hopper for things to come. Definitely also a drunk Leo and drunk mama conversation will be happening.
We're super excited about that. We just don't know when it's gonna go down.
Very excited. I almost bought some wine tonight, but I was like, no, let's get one under our belts first before we're ravaged really well. But people were stopping me in the drive-thru, like, thank you for speaking up. And that was my point in making that video, is I don't really care if people know who I am. For me, people always tend to know who I am because, like, I'm a very, gregarious, tattooed, quite queer person who is always able to be heard. But my skill set actually lies in, like, public speaking, building communities, bringing people together. So, like, I'm a good front-end person for basically anything. And some people mistake that for arrogance because I appear so confident, but I promise you guys I suck at a lot of things. It just happens to be that what you see is not what I suck at.
I think that happens. I was talking to somebody on the internet, a different creator, and joking around. I'm like, okay, all of us have to have a vein of narcissism.
Right.
It is what it is. And I think that TikTok in particular has allowed us to put that out, because I'm not gonna throw on a thong bikini and go running on the beach.
Yeah.
It's not who and take 20 Instagram pictures.
Me either.
it is not who I am.
Sorry, that's for me only.
But I'm hilarious. I am full of love to give. I have a very strong opinion when it comes to Christianity and LGBTQ+. And so I finally get to put that out there first. It's kind of like The Voice.
Yes.
But now for all of us.
Yeah.
Where you get to, it's not like we haven't scrolled through TikTok and been like, holy shit. I don't know what this human did, but damn. But it's not like that doesn't happen, but we also hear all these voices of people. And I have people, it just also forms this other thing where, like, I feel I know people that don't even know I exist. And so I just think that it's such a beautiful thing. But it's not being conceited.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I'm perfect. I damn sure know I'm not perfect.
Oh yeah, plenty of stuff I suck at.
Yeah, but it's like I can step up in the ways that I can help.
It's so true, because that's another thing about, like, I keep bringing it back to being an activist, because it's been a conversation of mine
absolutely.
lately. But that's another thing that you can do is, like, I firmly believe that there is scores of biblical evidence for the fact that we are divinely inspired and created with a purpose and a passion, right? There's a verse in Proverbs, and I literally can never remember the reference, which is horrible, but it's in there. And the verse says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life.
Yes.
And so many people, when I was growing up in the abstinence-only movement and in the I kiss dating goodbye movement, pause that. Author has apologized for that book being a colossal fuck up.
Yeah.
But during that movement, they used it to say, like, you gotta be abstinent, you gotta be pure. I think that's a wash. I think that's terrible exegesis. It's actually eisegesis. It was reading a Bible verse for their purpose. But the purpose of that verse is like, yo, I made you like this. You need to be like this. You know, like St. Augustine said, the glory of God is man fully alive. So we gotta find what we do, what we're made to do, and then do it loudly.
Yes.
Which is something that the gays are good at. So I guess it all dovetails for me. But
well, I think that, and I've talked about this before on my lives, I think that we get confused about what's sin and what's who we are.
yes.
And so, like, there's things, I kind of say sin is the shit we ask for help for. I need to be more honest. I need to stop treating people poorly. I need to take better care of myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I need to, like, those type of things. I need to be able to have better relationships, all that sort of stuff. And yes, I mean, I'm not taking off the table, like, I need to maybe not kill people, or I need to maybe
right,
not,
you know, some of the big ones there.
I'm not saying that those aren't there. I'm just talking about, like, for most of us, that's not on our list. But the things that we're praying about, the things that we're crying out to God for to help within us, those are sin. The fact that I have brown hair, or that you're queer, that's who God created us to be.
Yes.
And not a sin.
No. Absolutely not. Hard and fast. I think we can stand. If you're not with it, leave alive. Because we can stand on that bedrock. It is in my opinion, being gay is amoral. It is a-religious. It is outside of the topic. Just as being straight is outside of the topic.
Yes.
Being an asshole, firmly inside the topic. Right? You know what I mean? Like, those are things we can talk about.
Has its own lane.
Exactly, has its own committed lane. But that's the difference between guilt and shame too. Like, I will fully accept guilt over failures of my own. I have plenty of them. I have scores of them. I made a couple live videos in the past week about stuff that I failed on and learned from. That's guilt. Shame is like put on you. Shame is man-made. Shame is angry McYelly pants evangelical pastor who has no theological training coming and saying, you're going to hell.
Salty about that, aren't you?
Oh my God, I am literally the Pope, comparatively. I'm the Pope, comparatively, and I have a 4-year degree. I actually have a degree in the Bible, I promise, not just popping off. I have read it in Greek and Hebrew. It's on my knuckles. Actually, those might be the only 2 words I can remember. Lowest ever score on my transcripts was in Biblical Hebrew. I was crushing the class with a B+. Anyways, but yeah, like, shame is something that is, I don't think shame is of God, because I don't think God is ashamed of us.
No, I think that has to do, it kind of lines up with cancel culture, which I hate.
Yeah.
I hate it. And people are just like, it doesn't matter, I don't want to bring up any famous person's name to take it off, where someone's like, oh, now I don't agree because she mentioned that one person.
Right.
But I'm just saying, as a whole, if you took me back 30 years ago and put a fucking camera in my face and recorded everything I did until now, everybody would hate me.
Yeah.
100%. I promise you would hate me.
Absolutely.
And it's because I was human.
Yeah.
And as we grow, like, go watch a movie from 1982.
Yeah.
And look at how everybody talks to each other and the jokes that are being said. So to punish someone for not being woke 30 years ago is absolutely asinine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to punish, and the other thing is to just have someone screw up.
Yeah.
I screw up all the time. It's not on camera. And someone screws up, says something horrible, treats somebody horrible, does something horrible, and then it's just like, forget it. And I'm like, wait a second. That's literally not what Jesus taught.
Not at all. Not at all.
Literally not what. This is the exact example. No, I'm not saying the people who were like, yeah, I did it, and I don't care because, you know, I do hate black people. Like, okay,
all right, okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and
put that in its own lane again.
You know, we can cancel those people.
Yes.
But the people who were like, I did this, I apologize, I should have never said that joke, dressed that way, talked to that person, I'm sorry. Why can't we forgive them?
Yeah.
And move on.
Yeah, that actually in the Bible. God hating gay people, not in the Bible. If we're keeping a tally here, right? Forgiving people, loving people, yeah, totally in the Bible. And I actually talk about this with Elle all the time, my super hot, intelligent, wonderful wife. So new, I have to like use it right, so I can wear it out. But we talk about this all the time. People are like, oh, well, you're not the same person as when I met you, to their partner. Yo, that's a good thing. Because if the person that you're with right now is the same as the date you got with them, you are probably not growing either. Big red flags, you know what I mean? And we can't just cancel people for what they've done. That's silly. We should, you know, if they own up to it, then we applaud them for moving forward, right?
To me, that's the thing is some of the people in my life that I have loved so much, and the people in my life that I have fallen head over heels in love for, grew me, pushed me, changed me.
Yep.
And I just think that you're absolutely right. When you meet somebody who they just kind of, I think that's why they said that whole opposites attract, because they push you in ways and test you in ways that you weren't expecting. Because if you just are around somebody that's meh, you know, that you just get together and you just lay next to each other on the couch while you text on your own phones.
Yeah, separate lives.
They bring nothing to you. They don't light you on fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people who light you on fire are the people who make you feel crazy and make you forget that you even had a phone with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, iron sharpens iron, and I think that's true in relationships, and I think that's true in life. I think that's true in our own friendship. It's like level up, man. You know what I mean? Level up. I keep making all sorts of jokes about 2020, but like, it's 2020, man. Like, this is the year to level up, because it can either go down from here or it can go up from here.
Exactly.
And realistically, that's not dependent on who's in power. That's dependent on the people that put people in power, right? Because if we all as a culture change our mind and we're like, nope, not standing for this anymore, our systems of power have to follow us. And one of those systems of power is the church. And it really excites me to see people with that have a genuine message. You know, you're gregarious, you're well spoken, you're funny, you have fabulous eye makeup, all of these things, right? that qualify you, that make you attractive. But what is attractive, from what I've seen in you, is authenticity, because you authentically mean it. And I have to tell you a story about the first time I heard your voice. Which would be creepy if you were
I'm a little scared.
If you were not a TikToker, that would be very, very creepy. Help! I'm locked in this room. The first time I heard your voice, I was laying in bed with Elle, and she was watching TikTok. And she usually avoids serious TikTok like the plague, because she basically only goes on TikTok to laugh.
Okay.
Much like she only goes on Snapchat to use the filters. If I'm in another room and I hear her scream laughing, she's either watching a funny TikTok or she's using a Snapchat filter. But we're laying in bed and getting ready to go to bed, just kind of falling asleep, and she's listening to TikTok. And I heard, baby, I love you. And I heard the seriousness in your voice. And so I kind of like tuned in a little bit. And you started talking about the Bible. And I got nervous, because I haven't engaged that part of my past, that part of my life since 10 years ago when I came out. There were some dealings with the church, trying to work forward in my calling, running into roadblocks, that sort of thing. But I didn't have a great coming out experience. Better now, actually. I'll have to tell you about my mom and the amazing conversation we had recently. But it wasn't a good coming out experience, and so I have this trauma
Yeah.
And it's PTSD for sure, and religious trauma, which is totally a real thing. If you're out there in viewership land, religious trauma, I've got some good resources if you need them.
A lot of this family goes through that.
Yeah,
So
we'll have to talk about that because I found
Yes.
this Religious Trauma Institute actually, and it's been so helpful to me. So, but I had a genuine PTSD, which I'm actually diagnosed with, a genuine PTSD reaction to hearing you talk about God. And I was like, "Can you turn that?" And Elle was like, "No, listen, like keep listening." And your TikTok ended, and she looks over at me, and I'm weeping. And I was like, if only I had heard that voice 10 years ago, and that authenticity reached out to me. I started a TikTok, whatever. But I didn't even at that moment. That moment filed away in my brain, and you reached out to me in that moment, and then you walked into my salon 2 weeks later. I was like, what the hell? But that authenticity reached out through the interwebs, and like shook me to my core because I knew that you were speaking with actual authority and authenticity.
Yes.
And you're like, yep, I know God. God loves you.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I don't have a problem saying that.
Mhm.
I don't care if somebody thinks I'm crazy.
Mhm.
I don't care if somebody thinks. I don't really give a shit what people think.
No.
I know how I feel, and I also hate. It's like, wait a second. If God could speak into us years ago, who the hell said he stopped?
Oh my God, they say the Bible is the living word of God. Like the word was God, in the beginning the word was God, and God was the word. Like that's a whole thing. When the hell did that stop?
It didn't.
And
At least if it did. Okay, if it did, I am schizophrenic. Just letting you know, but I'm not.
Yeah. And if it did, I totally missed a fucking memo. But apparently, here's the thing. I think it still exists, but it only happens if you're a straight white male behind a pulpit and also carrying a badge.
That's probably why I don't qualify.
The word was the badge. No, the word was the evangelical interpretation of the Bible. False. The word was God, and God was with us. Like that's John. That's the whole beginning of John. It's not a riddle. God is still speaking. The Bible is the living word of God. 2020 is still happening. You know what I mean? God is still speaking.
I did a TikTok the other day where, because I just kept getting asked, like, do you think Jesus would accept me? Do you think he would love me? And I was like, okay, listen. If he were here right now, if it wasn't then, if now was when he came, where would he be?
Yes.
Where would he be?
Yep.
Because I promise you, he would not be in that church.
No.
He would be outside.
Yep.
He would be in the parking lot with everybody who's not allowed to go into the church.
Yep. Absolutely.
He would be at gay pride. He would not be sitting worshiping somewhere.
Not at all.
It's not who he was then, and so it's not who he would be now.
Exactly. It's incongruent, the way that people speak about Jesus. And I need everybody in viewership land to hear me. We're going to press pause right there, and I'm going to speak directly to you guys. Here's the thing. Church history. This is not going to go too deep. Please don't leave. Book of Acts, like Jesus died, Book of Acts, the original church, like people meeting in a room, eating together, seeing Jesus's ghost, Halloween, BC. So that's what like the church started out as. This group of people who ate together. And then it kind of morphed a little bit, but through oral tradition. The church, Jesus, the Bible, hot take, the Bible was not written in English or by one person or by God. It was written by people who believed that God was speaking to them in Aramaic. Okay, wanted to pause on that because a lot of people seem to think that the Bible was written in English. But so this is where the church came from. Out of that developed like the Catholic Church and the mainline churches and all that. There's a lot of other history in the middle. No one tell my professors. There's a lot of other history in the middle. But this is the church as an institution. The Catholic Church actually just means the whole church, right? And then what happened was people broke off from that. So there was these mainline churches and then these other churches. These other churches are the evangelical churches. These other churches are the non-denominational churches. These other churches have no tie to church history. They don't even talk about it, okay? So these churches, the ones with no tie to church history, the ones who have no grounding to stand on, right, in terms of history, because we are all standing on the shoulders of those who have come before us. They're not standing on any shoulders, right? They're on a step ladder, and they're yelling at you through a megaphone that you're going to hell. They're a McDonald's church. They didn't exist. Some of them at best are 200 years old. They're not connected to that upper room, that book of Acts. And I'll take all the heat for that because I am fucking ready. I spent a lot of years in counseling to be ready for this conversation. Okay? The people in the evangelical church are speaking apart from church history, right? They are willing to say, I understand God better than everybody else. Literally, I know Christians who think the Pope is full of shit. I mean, the Catholic Church might be flawed, but it came from something. And there's this whole organization that's like, okay, we're not perfect, we're working on it, we're still working within a framework, right? But these people are popping off. They're in prefab buildings, with prefab office chairs, with sexy coffee bars and guitars. Like, it's attractive, but where's the substance? It's the Three Musketeers, bro. I want a steak. All I'm saying, those people are the ones with the megaphone telling your babies, we're going to hell. I think that's bullshit, right?
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of times I'll talk to a baby and they're just like, well, my parents said this, my dad believes this, I've always been taught that. And my biggest thing that I'm screaming with a megaphone is, why are you not educating yourself?
Yeah.
Like, even coming to me, why do I have 2,000 messages a day across my platforms of somebody saying, does Jesus love me?
Yeah.
When there is Google.
Yeah, there is.
And I'm not discrediting myself.
Right.
I'm just saying, even don't trust me. Even don't trust me.
Yeah.
Just educate yourself.
Yeah.
Just look, listen, search out. I mean, come on. If you guys can have cancel culture and find someone's tweet from 2012.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or dig out something out of someone's MySpace account. Why is it such an issue for you to be able to look up and find something that's talking about Christianity and positive messages for LGBTQ+? Where that deconstruct is, where that change needs to happen. I didn't just know everything.
Right.
I dig for it.
Right.
I'm constantly trying to read new books, educate myself, listen to other people speak, talk to people who have this. Why I was, Sean could tell I was a lunatic when I was like, oh my God, I love him so much, I love him so much. I was like, I found our new best friends, I can't wait. So it was just like everything with you. We were literally going to Mexican food, and I was like, okay, because I'm such a wimp. I try to pretend like I'm such a badass, but I'm really scared of everything. And so...
That's why I come in.
And enter Dano.
And because he was with me, I was like, okay, I have to go over there and make an appointment.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, there was a big rainbow. It's so interesting. Had it been a couple weeks later, I wouldn't have come.
I know.
So,
I have a feeling there was a reason. Somebody probably put that in the plan.
There might have been some sort of bigger picture.
Exactly. And so then I made the appointment and I came in, and it was such like it's hard for me because I'm not that person. Do you know who I am?
Right, you're not like, oh hey, walking in with a posse of people and filming it, you know?
So that's not my thing. I do, however, I was joking with somebody the other day. It was like, I do, however, often run around only in looking like the gay fairy godmother because I want people to know if they're around me that not just it's me, but that they're safe. I've spent so much time. Charlie, my son, who's trans, he's 21, and he constantly is like, Mom, you're so weird. Because I'll see a gay couple in the store, and so I'm like altering where I'm at because I really want to catch their attention so I can smile at them so they can see me accepting them.
Yes. It's like the TikTok, like,
yes. So doing that, usually, having rainbow on me somewhere, I wear a backpack that has as many buttons as I can find on it. That are rainbow or trans or just different things. And I'm starting to acquire rainbow shoes and just like different things. So when I'm out, that people know that I'm a safe space. But at the same time, it's still interesting because I will go home And then I will get a message that says, were you and Oli in Aldi's? And I'm like, yes, bitch, why didn't you hug me?
Yeah, why didn't you say hi?
So
It's literally getting to the point where I'm starting to feel people questioning me.
Yeah, right. They're like, who's this guy? Whoa.
Okay.
You know what's funny? And this just struck me, and I had 17 thoughts between when your last segment started and when I said them. But this is the one that was last in the train, so you get this one. But so I just got this neck tattoo going on. Oh my god, it was awful, so fucking painful. But the reason that I got this tattoo is it's actually like a couple different ones. But you'll notice that I have a big like gay fire here for those of you who can't see that.
I'm gonna zoom in for this.
Yeah, go for it.
That's awesome.
It's a big gay fire.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this is my lighthouse, like guiding me through the storm, and then this is like some smoke behind a ribbon that I got in honor of some of my friends that passed away from overdose. And so that where the significance of this tattoo comes into play is in the Old Testament when the Israelites were wandering through the desert, right? God led them through, according to the Old Testament, according to the Bible, God led them through the desert with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. It was a mobile thing. It was the tabernacle, like that went with them. That was a mobile thing. So first off, I think it was a gay fire. Dun, dun, dun. Second of all, I feel like you walking around only in rainbow flags and stuff, like you're carrying the temple with you. Like you're taking the presence of God literally to Aldi's, to the streets.
Yes.
And that's why you want people to know, like there might not be 4 walls here that look like they accept you. We'll touch on that in a minute. But I'm here. So you're literally like this modern day interpretation of like, you're walking through the desert. There's a fucking desert here, bro. And you're like, hey, I'm here, and you're queer, and that's okay. You know what I mean? And that's really cool.
Well, but the thing that's interesting about it, so I remember watching, I want to say like 2020 or one of those Barbara Walters or something, so I can age us. And they would say, oh, is it really more difficult for this? And they put hidden cameras on women going to a car shop. Or they put somebody in a fat suit and have them walk around to see somebody else's life. When I cover myself in rainbow, I get hate.
Oh, absolutely.
I get hate. And I have caught myself. I've done it. I've 100% done it. I will admit it. Pull up somewhere, evaluate the situation, and pull my wallet out of my gay-ass purse and walk inside.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And because I get to take it off. But my son can't. Jaden can.
Yeah.
Unless someone's being completely inappropriate, they see my 12-year-old, they think that is a little boy. I know he's a little boy, but they don't question.
They don't question it, yeah.
Charlie is trans, never, ever, ever clocked for being trans, but everybody who sees him thinks he is a very feminine gay male. To the point that he's a server in Erie, and he had one instance really recently, so it's in my head, where he was being treated horribly, and so he just immediately was like, okay, no way, told his manager I can't do that table, and when she went out to ask what the problem was, the really actual F word was used that they didn't want that type of person around them or at their table or touching their food, and she was like, then you need to leave.
Wow.
But he can't take that off. He can't suddenly be extremely masculine. It's not who he is as a person.
Yeah.
And so people know. And I think with a lot of people that, and it makes sense, like, why should you ever have to hide it? I was gonna say, for a lot of people, they can't hide that they're LGBTQ+, but why would you ever want to?
Right.
You should be able to just be who you are. And I think that in this community, like you were saying, it's taken us so long to say that Black Lives Matter. I have a huge, huge belief that it's also trans lives matter. And it's really, and this is coming from an FTM mother, that it is really, really MTF trans lives matter.
Yeah. Oh,
And then, like you said, we can go into black and brown. Like, it just, as you keep going.
Yeah, when you go to black trans women, the statistics, man. Ooh.
It's horrible.
Almost double, right?
Yeah. I've been looking for the exact number because I hate misquoting numbers, but the statistics on it are hard because, frankly, so many coroners misgender people because they're like, oh, yeah, dick. You know what I mean? Like, that's
exactly.
They're like, literally, to a person who has passed away. I mean, there are countless trans people who are buried under their, under their dead name, right? Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean?
Well, but it's also because their parents show up and say, yeah, that's my son who is a lost cause.
States that don't allow change.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
I can't change my son's birth certificate. Charlie was born in North Carolina.
Oh no, North Carolina.
Literally, that's it.
That's just like a no-fly zone in my
I
brain.
messed up there. I dropped a baby in the wrong state.
Yep, not North Carolina.
So his birth certificate is changed. His name is legally changed. However, I cannot change his gender marker. The state of Pennsylvania is cool with it. But on his birth certificate, which, I mean, in the most part, you just hand somebody your driver's license.
Right.
But he can't change his gender marker unless he has bottom surgery and a surgeon writes a letter.
Yeah. When I went to get, it's for those of you who aren't trans or don't have close proximity to someone who is trans, changing your name and gender marker is a pain in the ass. And here's the reason. Because there's no one single process. There's no one single repository. There is no one single entity. So you have to have the same traumatizing and degrading conversation with person after agency, after mistrained clerk, after this. Like, you have to get so many letters talking about your genitals, bro. I went to get my social security card changed here in Olean, and they're like, have you had the surgery? And I looked at the clerk and I was like, you're actually not legally allowed to ask me that. Like, I went online and I read what you have to do, and it's not that. And so I handed her the Social Security Administration rules for name and gender marker change. I handed it to the Social Security Administration clerk. And she's like, I'm gonna go check with my manager. And she came back and she's like, you're right. And I was like, yeah, well, thank you for announcing to a room full of people who may or may not be friendly that my genitals don't necessarily match my beard. You know what I mean? Like, thank you for outing me, awesome clerk.
You got me started. Why? Unless you're going to sleep with my son, you have no business knowing what's in his pants.
Yep.
None.
Yeah.
Ever.
My genitals were the talk of the town for a long time. Like, people telling Elle that maybe she shouldn't date me because, I got a beard and she's a lesbian, and people telling her that I told them that I wanted bottom surgery. People asking Elle, oh my God, Elle is so tired of answering questions about my genitals. So instead of answering questions about if I've had bottom surgery, she just goes, so how's your husband's dick? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She just fires it right back.
Why is it that cisgender heterosexual males primarily are so caught up on genitalia?
Yes. Why though? Like you said, unless you're sleeping with this person, why does it matter? Also, on the flip side, if you are going to sleep with this person and their genitalia does not match what you thought it should, you don't get to murder them.
Absolutely not.
Trans panic is not a defense.
No.
And it is incredibly egregious to me that in 2020 that can still be used in a lot of states.
Yes.
So if you want to talk to me about equality, if you want to talk to me about equity, come back at me when people are not dead named by a coroner, or maybe they never make it there because we can create a cultural change, or trans panic is not a defense, or these are all things that happen on a regular basis. So yeah, I can marry who I want to marry now, but the fight for equity is so far from over. Equality is when we all get the same thing. Equity is when we all can reach the same end. So we're at equality. We got to move to equity, and that's racially, that is socio-economically, that is orientation-wise. That's a whole thing. We've got a lot of work to do, and it's so gross that as America, as an institution, we're we're good.
Yeah.
We're the cool kids at the lunch table.
Everything's great.
Yeah, everything's great. Everything's fine.
But it's not.
Nope.
Everybody's giving you love for that, by the way.
Oh, perfect.
And at the same time, we dealt with hate coming at Charlie in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Arizona at the time, and he texts me from school and said, my life was just threatened. And I said, I don't give a shit where you're at. Get up and walk to the office right now.
Yeah.
And we're on our way.
Yeah.
So what had happened was Charlie started dating a girl. The girl's now ex-boyfriend, not because of Charlie, had been before Charlie came in the situation. I don't remember the exact verbiage, so I can't be quoted on it, but it basically was like, so I have a knife on me anyway, and this and that, and he should watch out for this, and he better never show up in the bathroom.
Oh, good.
He better never be here or there, whatever.
Yeah.
And
sent a text, a picture of said knife on the property.
Oh my God.
Yeah. To my son. So when we get there, because Charlie had reported it, when we get there, I mentioned this child played football. It was a Friday night. The school had not only brushed this shit under the rug, they got the kid off campus.
What?
They kept, because I was there in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I was left sitting in the waiting room until finally I was like, I'm not waiting anymore. I don't know where my son is in here, but I need him next to me now.
Yeah.
And so.
Alive. Yeah.
So they brought him out, and then we had to wait. And then by the time we got back to the principal's office, he was just like, these kids will fight with one another, especially over a girl. And I'm like, where the hell is this kid?
Yeah.
And where's his parents? And it took a bit. Well, actually, let's be honest. What it took was I called the damn police because they weren't going to. And I was like, I'm filing a police report.
Yeah.
Because if anything ever happens to my kid, I want this to be on record that we were told that he was off campus. What are you raising your hand for?
You're forgetting the fact that they had a police officer on the campus the whole time because we went from the principal's office to that office.
To the SRO office? Oh my God.
Yeah. So we had to be the ones to bring that in. So I did file the report. I took Charlie home, and he never stepped foot on that campus again.
Never.
Because I was like, you are not safe in that building.
Yeah, because there's no protection, not only from students, but from faculty. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And at that time, they were giving us grief because we wanted to unenroll our child that day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was like, bring truancy to my house. He's out.
That's so crazy to me. So let's talk. Hold this phone. Engage your audience for a second.
I don't even know what to say. I usually
You want to
know what
flip
say
the
when you
camera
put
and
me on
see
the
some
spot.
comments real quick?
He's going right
I'm back. I put you on the spot. So, I have with me a brick that was actually thrown through my front window of my business here in Olean, New York. I had a sign in my window. Actually, this brick maybe is why we met, so maybe it's a better thing than we thought. But
yes.
I have it right here. Keep it in the shop because it's a brick towards a better future. But I had a sign in our window in rural Olean, New York, which actually we're the population center for an hour around us. That's terrifying. We are the bastion of culture for this area. But I had a sign in the window of our business, and Elle and I put this up together. We do things as a couple together. All of our business decisions are together. We are a unit. And I would never once consider doing something that might put my spouse, who is a person of color, in jeopardy. Because my spouse is not white and my children are not white. And so it's another layer, right?
Yes.
Of marginalization and stigma, whatever. So I talked to Elle and she was like, go for it. We put a sign up in our window because we put one up every Pride Month. We are pretty much the only business that I'm so sorry if there's another Olean business owner out here that has done this, but I don't think I've seen another Olean business with a Pride
No,
sign.
and if you are and we don't know about it, let us know because we will be frequenting your establishment.
Yeah, hit us up because we're going to get you some people, okay? Because the gays have some money. Not a lot all the time, but we have some money and we'll spend it with you instead of Hobby Lobby. Anyways, so we put a sign up in our window that said the first Pride was a riot against police brutality, #Happy Pride, #Black Lives Matter. Because the movement of the moment in 2020 was and is about Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
And I have no need to steal attention from that movement because when something gets better for one area of marginalization, we all do better.
Absolutely.
So it was my intention as a visibly queer, outspokenly queer person to lend solidarity to the fact that the first Pride was a riot against police brutality started by Black and brown trans women. Don't you fucking forget it and stop excluding them from Pride events. I see you, white cis males. So I have all the thoughts. So this brick was thrown through our window. It literally impacted our window at the spot that said, Happy Pride, Black Lives Matter. Olean police came to investigate it. Not enough evidence that it's a hate crime. Not enough evidence. I've been arrested in Olean for being assaulted. Please hear me. No offensive wounds, only defensive. I was arrested for being assaulted by somebody because they have a family member in the police department. We were talked out of filing. They filed a report against us, and I was arrested with an arrest warrant for a female by my dead name, which has not legally been my name for, at that point, 5 years.
Wow.
And I had a fucking beard. Like, they would have had no reason to know that that was my name or that I was born female, except for the person who assaulted me. Hey, let me talk to my friend who's a police officer. And it really bothers me when institutions are like, we're just not going to protect you. Like, oops, sorry, you're gay. It happened. Oops, sorry, you're black. Sorry, you choked on something while your hands were handcuffed behind your back. Like, that's crazy. And we have to do better as a world than that.
Absolutely. And I think that also kind of comes back into mom standing up.
Yeah.
Because I was very lucky that where Charlie ended up going to high school when we came here, that he had an amazing principal who was supportive.
That's awesome.
Of the situation and tried to protect my son in the best ways possible and was really open to having conversations to see what would work. And because of that, I was also really proud of my son, because instead of just being like, this is what I want, even though it might not be the best for everybody involved, we came to a lot of compromises. But one thing that I would not compromise is I don't care who your teachers are, what their background is, what they believe. By Pennsylvania state law, they must respect my child or they can fucking quit.
Yeah.
That's where I stand.
Yep.
So
if you receive federal funding, guess what? You gotta respect us. We're coming for you if you don't, because I'm tired of us sitting back. So let's find some lawyers that can back up what I just said. If you're a lawyer and you're gay, hit me up. Anyways, get lost, haters.
But that's the thing, is that, and so I had to have a couple of those conversations. Charlie would come home and say, well, I have to preface this because not everybody's my TikTok babies and they know this. We don't say dead name in our house, we say birth name.
Okay.
And I'm allowed to use the name Christine whenever I want, because probably because there's zero trauma.
Yeah.
With my kids with their previous names.
Yeah.
Just like I'm also have pictures of these two little girls all over my house, and they're both like, that's part of our story.
Yeah, we have the same my mom and I have the same understanding.
So, but he's like, I got called Christine today. I got called she. We had to break up into boys and girls, and guess what side I was forced to be on?
I hate that.
We had to. He was told he had to tell a traumatic event, like for some story, and was forced, like they all had to draw it out of a hat, and was forced to do it from a women's perspective. And he wrote such an amazing, I can't say the big R word on TikTok without getting shut down, but you know what I'm saying? Just a story in relation to that as a trans man that they contacted me to make sure nothing had actually happened.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, don't twist his arm. But when he came home, then I would call and say, you need to have a discussion.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a choice. This isn't a fucking bakery. It's a school.
Fuck you, Colorado.
and they have to respect my son for who he is. A fun fact that principal also did is, in the history of where that is, I don't know why I'm saying where that is, it was Coudersport. In the history of Coudersport, the boys and girls graduated, boys in purple gowns, girls in white.
Yes.
Charlie's year, they all wore white.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Because he knew, the principal knew that there was no way my son was wearing purple. I literally had not, it was my first go around with the name change and going to court there. I was scared of it. I was just honest. Absolutely. I've got to go in here and talk about this. So I was kind of dragging my feet. And then the principal's like, listen, I cannot legally put on the diploma or call the name out across stage of who he's not legally. So I was like, okay, and we did the mad rush to get, and it was, I had to do, like, he was a minor, and I had to, because we had lived in California previous, had to get like California courts to say he had never been in trouble. I'm like, this is a kid.
Yeah, it's
not even like he's like a 30-year-old convict.
Right.
He's a 30-year-old kid.
It's a kid. Yeah.
And the whole like, that he didn't owe any debt and like all this stuff. But we jumped through all the hoops and we did that. But the thing that we did compromise, and it worked for us, it worked for Charlie, was we used the nurse's bathroom. And so I think that in some areas you live in, and this was kind of how Charlie said it. He's like, Mom, and if we were back in San Diego, I'd want to use the men's bathroom and the men's locker room. But we're here. And I don't want to be anywhere near the boot crew in the men's locker room. I'm just not even interested in it. It's not something I want to have to worry about my safety at school. And so he was like, I'm totally cool with the nurse's office. Yeah. The school was like, oh, thank God.
Right.
But that was a compromise we made. I do have to say, I think I have the most genius idea to take care of the fucking bathroom issue.
Oh my God, please drop it on us.
Okay, so imagine high school bathroom. First of all, you have these two giant rooms. So between the two of them, you've got just about your studio. Yeah. Full of all these bays. We have all these issues, whether it's kids getting violated, kids using drugs, kids, like things that shouldn't be happening in them anyway, not even talking about trans people. Yeah. If you take that exact same space and gut it and just give yourselves 10 individual stalls that are just along the wall, so if someone has to take a piss, they do something crazy like open it up, close it, have privacy. Right. And just a little tiny baby sink, like put an airport bathroom, like 10 of them, around campuses.
It's like you're an engineer or some shit.
Exactly. I don't know how to make that happen, but to me, that's like, that just takes care of it.
Yeah. Why do we gender our built environment? That's fucking crazy. Yeah. Like it's just like gendering clothes. What? What the hell? Anyways, I digress. Sorry. Great idea.
I agree with that too. I raising my kids, Charlie's taught me so much. Stuff I didn't know to say, and I think that's important for parents to know. Stuff you don't know to say. Like, I've learned so much. I've learned to just walk into to Kohl's and say, go pick clothes. Not, where's the girls section? Where's the boys section? Just, what clothes do you want? Yep. Way before Jaden came out, he would be like, it's holiday, I want a sweater vest and a tie. You know, so he knew, but that was because Charlie taught me that. Then I knew how to do that.
Yeah, it's so important. There's no need to assign gender to things that don't have fucking genitals. Like, why?
Toys is the other thing.
Oh my God, did you see my TikTok I did like a week ago? There was a toy, it's a gender reveal doll at Marshall's. No! And I was like, oh look, you can, I'll have to show you the TikTok, but it's like, oh look, you can tell the genitals of this child's toy based on whether their bottle's pink or blue. And then I turned it around and I was like, that's horrifying.
But it is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't, you know, I was joking around, I'm like, if I had a baby today, my child would have they, them pronouns until they told me differently, and I already told Sean, I'm like, their name would be Gray.
Yeah. There you go.
Literally.
Yep. There you go. Yep. Yeah. Kids are able to tell you. They can tell you a myriad of things, right? Especially about themselves. Like when you're 5, your only experience is yourself. That's why you're selfish. But you know yourself. You know what I mean? Your 5-year-old could tell you how they feel, right? Let's stop literally. Oh my God. I did so much reading about this because I was like researching like intersex, like as a condition, and like how one is described as intersex versus male or female. Yes. They freaking measure your genitalia. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. If you have under 3 inches, you are just like, you're like a variant of female. If you have over 3 inches, you're like, a boy. Sorry if you're like 3.1. But like that's the thing. His face. Yeah, like people think that the biology is binary, and there are so many beautiful shades in that spectrum. And babies are like being mutilated. They're being given genital reconstructive surgery before they can eat solid food. Like,
well, I was gonna say, yeah, that's definitely, and I think that we forget sometimes that we still live in a world that has those things going on.
Yeah.
That preacher I sent you earlier. There are still men at the pulpit in the United States screaming that being gay is wrong, being black is wrong, that you need to, save your children, save your wives.
Yep.
There's an issue going on.
Yep.
Don't help them in your store. Definitely don't hire them.
Yeah, the preacher this morning said, what if a homosexual man gets elected to office? Pause. What's he gonna push for? And I was like, I don't know, probably a better street sweeper schedule. Like, why? It's not a zany thing. Like, it's not like he's like, I'm gonna legalize or I'm gonna outlaw monogamy or heterosexuality. All of you are gonna hang. No, but you actually they've done that to gay people. So let's talk about turnabout here. But what is that homosexual gonna do in office? Probably like office work.
Well, I'm
guessing.
Yeah.
I'm putting together a merch line, and we were talking about it, and Sean was like, you need one that says the gay agenda, equality.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because literally, I get so tired of it. It's like, well, what do those gays want? I don't know, to be treated like human beings.
Just be a human. Just be a human.
But I think that we forget so much, even I don't like, that sounds disgusting, but I think it's important to show my children horrible crap, meaning through this pandemic. This building in Texas opened up for food. These people have been in line for miles to get a box of food. Because we're really privileged. He's an essential worker. So through this whole thing, we've never been without work. I was, because I worked in marketing, and for public speakers that I worked for, they didn't really seem to have much public to speak to anymore.
That's quite valid.
And if they were doing it, it was online, and so they weren't, making all these ticket sales, so I wasn't needed. But he kept his job. And so, but I want my kids to know that. I want my kids to know that they're privileged. And it's definitely not that we're wealthy. It's not that we are definitely middle to lower class financially, but my kids are very, very privileged.
Yeah,
we just got our ancestry done. You can't get any more white than my children.
Oh my God, same here. My first ancestry DNA test was like 98% white and 2% other white. Like my kids were actually like, Leo, we're so sorry that you're just white, and they gave me
You're white in that show.
Exactly, you're white and slightly off satin. But it's so true. Like, we have privilege, and people have made privilege out to be this bad thing.
No.
Privilege, once again, is amoral. I think it shouldn't exist. We shouldn't create a society that is binary in so much as privileged and non-privileged. But I recognize that I have a certain level of privilege, and it is what I do with that privilege that we can ascribe value to. Right?
Absolutely.
If I can run around and true story, before I transitioned, I was very visibly a lesbian. My family likes to say that I was in a glass closet because I was the last person that knew I was gay, but everybody else would too. But I would get pulled over for going like 21 in a 20 and get a ticket, right? I've gotten pulled over probably 5 or 6 times since transitioning. Not for speeding. I'm not like a shitty person. But I've gotten pulled over 5 or 6 times since transitioning and having a beard. Never once gotten a ticket. Every time I got pulled over as a visibly gay female, got a ticket for stupid stuff. And so privilege exists, and I have to recognize that I do in fact have the privilege of passing as a cisgender male. I don't like the word passing because it implies that trans people have to be one way or another, but for lack of a better word, people assume that I am a cisgendered male.
Yeah.
That is a privilege that I have. So what can I do with that? I'll tell you what I do with that. I stand behind my barber chair, and I talk to a lot of straight cis dudes about their feelings and about how they handle relationships in a healthy way. And I pass out the name of counselors, and I talk to them about breaking addictions, and I have dude talk with them. Like, I can do that now. Yeah. And then you know what happened one day? Cool as shit, man. My friend, I'm going to say his name in case he's watching, but Lance, such a chill dude. Met him at the gym. We were just weightlifting buddies, right? Came in one day, and he was getting his hair cut, and he's like, I like your eye makeup. And I was like, that was a crazy moment. He's like a dude, bro. As straight cis dude sitting down in my chair, like, I like your eye makeup. I've done something in the world. So I was able to take that privilege and transition it into something good. That's the world that we need to engage in, not this just binary like, yo, I'm privileged, suck it. But like, hey, what can I do with what I have? You're telling moms, you're encouraging moms, you're literally empowering parents to love their children in ways they didn't know was possible. Yes. You're using the privilege you have to make a difference in the world. How much better would the world be if everyone did that? Like if we all guarded our hearts and in our sphere, you run cable, what do you do?
Yeah, cable.
You could talk to all the cable runners, right? You talk to all the moms. I'm going to talk to
customers.
Yeah, talk to the customers. I'll talk to the people in my chair. The people in office, that homosexual in office might talk to some other people and they'll realize gays aren't evil. But like if we all took our privilege, we could actually deconstruct the idea of privilege.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I do have to tell you something because of what you said.
Share. As long as it's not fuck you.
No.
Okay.
Could I make a request real quick? Could you scoot a little closer? Is that okay? Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
So when I first saw you and then first got online and started looking to make an appointment, I was like, oh my gosh, look at this cute little gay dude and his sister.
The truth shall set you free.
Which is one of the reasons that when I came in here, I was like,
yeah.
Like every single time something more came out, whether it was your transition, pronoun talk, your wife, the kids, I was just like, God, did you make them for me?
What?
Yeah.
Wild. It's so funny because we'll go into, I like to tell Elle, like as a non-binary, genderqueer person, like it would have been equally as weird for me to have been born a boy. I would have had so much socializing and deconstructing to do. Because I'm not a boy, like, no offense to boys or girls, I'm just not either of them. Right, yeah, so I always like to say I'm the best of both worlds. So Elle is always worried that people think that she's just like my fag hag. Like she's my gay, I'm her gay best friend, and so we were in Ulta in Rochester one day, and Elle had like 8, Sean's face, Elle had like 8 things of makeup in her hand, and I was like, you have one in that shade, you're not out of that yet. Get this because it's the one that you should buy and you should spend money on it. And the cashier was like, oh, I have a friend like that. And she grabbed my hand and she goes, we kiss. She
was like, no.
Yeah, Elle was like, God damn it, this is my spouse. You know what I mean? It was so funny.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, I just like to break boundaries.
So Charlie's girlfriend introduced her mom to Charlie. And she didn't tell her parents that Charlie was trans. Just introduced him, whatever. Calls her later because Charlie was like, listen, you have to tell your parents.
Right.
We can't hide this from them.
Right.
Just let them know, and either they're going to love me or hate me, and it's just going to be what it is.
It's going to be what it is, yeah.
And so she called, and she's like, Mom, I have something to tell you. Charlie's trans. She said her mom was like, thank God your dad and I were trying to decide how we were going to tell you that you were his beard.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Like they were gonna try to save her from heartbreak because he was just trying the girl thing out. Oh my God, that's so cute.
So they were like, no, it's okay.
I love it so much.
So, but I think that, it doesn't really have to do with that, but it just popped in my head because of that. That I see, something else I see opening up more is I love on TikTok how people will start, somebody will make, in the queer community, somebody will make a shitty post, and everybody's like, we're not gatekeeping homosexuality. You don't have to be these 5 things
yes.
to be a top lesbian or a bottom lesbian or a trans man or a this or that. And so I want to know your opinion on this.
Yeah.
Because I have somebody very, very dear to my heart that I talk to about this. And then I've also had babies who, I don't know, I think that God sends us all the same stuff when they're like, okay, this is here's your next
Right, here's your next topic. Yeah, God's like crowdsourcing you.
Exactly.
God's like, look in this direction.
Yeah. So it's this. If you are non-binary and you like females, how do you, okay, if you were born female, now you're non-binary, and you like females, how do you say your sexuality?
How do I explain that? Yo, that's a $1 billion question, and I will let you know when I come up with an answer, because usually it's like a paragraph instead of a sentence, you know?
My child liked to express it by saying in the middle of my very conservative town, in the grocery store, well, I just don't like fucking dick. That is not how we're going to say this.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you could like other ones. Like, there's all sorts of options in that arena, right?
Yes.
This is something that Elle and I talk about too, because unfortunately, like, we both deal with a bit of invisibility within our community now, because like, until I speak, I look like a straight man, but I'm obviously very effeminate. But so like, I used to be visibly lesbian, and now I can like walk into a gym and blend in with dude bros, and I'm like, I don't like that. And she didn't come out until later in life. She came out when she was 30. Dated, I think, like a couple women, and then met me, and then she encouraged me to transition, which was a great personal sacrifice to herself. Listen, get yourself a partner who will sacrifice their happiness for your growth, because that's what Elle did for me. She said it's more important for you to be you than for me to be with you. Luckily, there was a lot of counseling and a lot of crying. We're still together, but yes. she did that for me. But so now she is a femme lesbian, which is its own level of vulnerability, or of invisibility, right? Because people think lesbians have to like wear flannels and, you know, like fucking listen to country music. I don't know. People just have this idea of what a lesbian is. Like, I'm gonna drink my protein shake and go hit the weights, babe. And that's just not Elle. She is the literal quintessential summation of feminine energy, right?
Yes.
So we have this amount of visibility. So we have this conversation all the time. And I just kind of still tell people I'm a lesbian, and then comes the paragraph. But we've kind of come to the understanding that within ourselves, we both feel attracted to feminine energy. And she's kind of come on her own journey with her own understanding of sexuality, to where she's like, I couldn't rule out that I would date a trans woman. In fact, I might date a trans woman because I would like understand that in a whole way I never did before. So Elle identifies as someone who's attracted to feminine energy. There's a name for it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Attracted to feminine energy.
Yeah, and there's a name for it. There is a non-gendered name, or a non-gendered term for people who are attracted to females. I'll have to look it up because I found it online somewhere. Yes, please do. And there's a way that expresses your orientation without your gender, but it's like not a really popular term yet. But so like the way that we verbally explain it is like I'm attracted to feminine energy, and personally I'm attracted to lesbian energy. Like I'm not really attracted to straight women. It's like I don't understand you, but I also don't understand boys, so it's like a very weird space for me.
Yes.
But so I just say I'm attracted to feminine energy. It's kind of where I go with it. So.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, that's it!
Whoa, what was it?
Saposexual.
Oh.
The prefix is like, it's Latin for like feminine, whatever. So it's like, you know, talking about the energy of this person instead of, you know, like your genitals versus their genitals, basically.
Well, yeah, it's
Somebody
really...
else said trixic?
I haven't heard that one, but saposexual is the one I was thinking of, but now I'm going to have to Google that, so.
Yeah. Well,
I love learning.
It's so funny because, you know, I get asked all the time, what's your gender and sexuality? You know, and I'm like, I'm
Okay.
I'm cisgendered and straight. But as I've dove deeper into this community and see where like my attraction is and how I feel, kind of like you said, like the ways people's energy is, I joke with the babies all the time. Poor Sean. I joke with the babies all the time. I'm like, if anything happens to him, I will definitely be with somebody who was born female and is either trans
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I just know.
Yeah.
I just want that energy.
Yeah.
She's not trying to off me, okay?
No, they like each other. I swear to God, they like each other. For those of you on Facebook land, you can't see this, but Jill's wife. God damn it.
Yes.
Jill's husband is right behind the camera. Oh my God. I'm gonna take some view for that.
He needs a picture.
He does.
Today.
He does.
It was your first day to be misgendered.
I know. I just misgendered you, man.
Mark it on the calendar.
Oh man.
It's funny though, because I talk to people
What's
about.
funny is that's only the first time since adulthood.
Next on conversations with Sean Wallace.
So, but I think that that's funny. I get asked all the time. You know, people are like, "Well, what if they don't do this?" Or what if, you know, my aunt keeps slipping up? And I'm like, "Listen, I misgender my cisgendered straight kids. Like, you know, I'll just have all my kids around, and you know, my son who's almost 23 is cisgendered and straight, and I'll be like, hey baby girl, and he's like, fuck mom.
Like, why? What am I doing?
And I'm just like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just,
You just kind of float outside the binary. Like, the thing is the world is not binary. Things are not black or white. And I feel like, to circle this all back around, because like, in my mind, like things are synchronistic in this conversation, the world doesn't have to be binary. You don't have to be black or white. You don't have to be gay or straight. You don't have to be male or female. And a lot of what ails our world and our society is the insistence of people on perpetuating binary thinking and polarizing thinking.
yes.
Throughout history, polarizing thinking has created the space for hate to grow. Look at apartheid. Look at Northern Ireland Protestant and Catholics. Look at the Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda. Look at look at black people in police. Like, there doesn't need to be a binary, because when we other people, and not in our world, like, it's easy to other a person, but our whole system's other people. Our birth markers, other people. Our racial profiling on government forms, others people. We have systems of othering, and that fosters space for hate to grow. It's like mildew in a room that's slightly damp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there is no need to gender the world. There's no need to push the binary on the world. It's not healthy. It's not how we're made. Like,
Well, and I kind of have that argument a lot when people are, usually I'm talking to evangelical Christian parents or something, and they're like, I don't understand why they have to have all these names. Like, when I was younger, you were either gay or you weren't. And I'm like, because you fuckers made it this way.
you made it that way, right?
You made it so that you, like, it just used to be, you could say, I'm queer, I'm gay, and that was cool.
And that was that. Yep.
You know, but then you're like, well, I thought gay meant, you know, that was gay men. Okay, well, then we're lesbian. You know, and it's like, well, so every time somebody changed, they had to have a label because they were questioned by people who decided, well, you know, we have to have some sort of binary operation for this, and now you're not fitting into the little box. So, you know, you don't fit in this gay box because you happen to have a penis and boobies.
Yeah.
So we need to
put a new box out there. Instead of
created by a limited mind.
Yeah, boxes are created by a limited mind. Instead of creating a box, we should have just been like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Well, why don't you just ask that person what they are, and then love them anyways? You know what I mean? Or love them because, I guess I should say. Because that's another thing, like, that really bothers me about Christianity. Man, I could talk to you all night. I don't even know what time it is.
I know what I was going to say.
It could have been, like, live for 5 hours at this point.
What time is it?
I don't know.
What time is it? It should say on. Don't close it down. Where's your phone?
It's 7:31.
Oh, we're good. We're gravy.
Yeah. I think there's this idea too that's kind of perpetuated by Christianity, in particular evangelicalism, because the mainline churches like United Church of Christ, Lutherans, those guys are some badasses, Episcopals, Presbyterians, these churches don't have this situation, but there seems to be this like need to, within evangelicals, like, this is it. You're this, you're that, you're the other. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's perpetuated by that system, and it doesn't need to be. You know what I mean?
And I get asked every single night. There's not a night I go live that I'm not asked. I don't know what I am. How do I find out what I am? How do I find out who I love? How do I find out what my gender is? And I'm like, you've already answered the only question you needed to, which is you do not fit in society's two boxes of cisgendered and straight. You don't. You don't have to pick another box.
You don't. No.
I literally say that every single night. You do not have to pick a new box.
You don't.
Eventually, if you find a box that you want, then great. But, you know, and I assume, I can't imagine it would be any different, that, you know, when you smooch on someone, you find out really quickly if that was your someone or not.
It does, yeah. I would have to say there has been some very positives and some very negatives for me. Like, no.
I just told the story last night of when I got divorced, I went home. And so my older brother's friend had been divorced. And so I was like, and the family was like, It was all great until we went to the beach and we kissed each other and we both were like,
Nope.
Never will we do that thing ever again.
I'm laughing because I've had that moment, and it's like I could make out with this brick and it would be more passionate. Ironically, the same thing happened to me the first time I kissed a boy. It was like, whoa, hard pass. Nope.
I want none of that.
None of that. Nope, that was awful.
But it's that type of, you know, it's like that for anybody. So you don't have to find out if you love this type of person or that type of, just be in the world.
Yeah.
And when falling in love is one of the most beautiful fucking feelings in the whole wide world.
Absolutely.
And I fall in love with everybody.
Yeah.
I fall in love. Sean knows how I am. I'm like, I will flirt with 80-year-old women. I don't care.
You just love.
I just love. I just love. I don't know how to not. And it has gotten me in trouble. I've had people make passes at me and I'm like, the hell?
Different kind of love.
Yeah. And then like, well, you said that like I lit your soul on fire. And I'm like, that was because I liked your shoes.
Right.
What?
I know, no, I totally get that because it's kind of funny because like once again in 2020, this happens to me all the time. You'll probably appreciate this story and I wish Elle was here to tell it. But people hit on me all the time. And I have no idea. None. To the point where my daughter, who has autism, has had to tell me that someone was hitting on me. I had no clue, and my daughter's like, they're hitting on you, and I was like, what? No. But in 2020, basic human decency, or any form of affection, passes as flirting. Like, the bar has been set so desperately low that I'm like, I like your shoes, and they're like, marry me! Like, there's no...
Like, wait, no.
Yeah, no, it's
not
so
what I was
weird.
doing. But it is hard at times because I do get that, and I get hurt easily because I don't have that off button. I love with reckless abandon every time. When it comes to the business side of Mama Jill Wallace, I literally had to bring, I met somebody, and I was like, oh, you're perfect. They're also ace, which makes them perfect for me to just throw love at them.
Yes, perfect.
What the fuck is this?
Yeah, like, get away. That's so perfect. So, you had to outsource that because it takes you have to, I have trouble with this sometimes in business too. You have to create a healthy boundary there, right? Like you have to make certain decisions as a business person, certain decisions as, a leader of this moment and this movement, and you have to do it devoid of feeling. But like I do very terribly doing things void of feeling.
and I do too. I do too at times. But it's like I have to be really careful because I'm sensitive. It's who I was created. Like, you can't love this much and not be sensitive.
Yeah, you're squishy.
Yeah. But I like that. Like, I don't want to lose it. I don't want hard edges. I don't want walls built up. And it's one of the reasons that I talk so freely about, we didn't talk about this beforehand, so I don't know how far to go here. I talk so freely about the shit I've been through in life because I think it's important. Just like I say, it's absolutely okay to be gay and Christian. It's also okay to be human and Christian. And so I talk super freely about the stuff that I've done in my life or how I've behaved or what the kids love to call scandalous mama. Like, I'm like...
I feel like Scandalous Mama needs her own channel and a t-shirt.
Somebody...
There is no voting open on that.
That's a hard pass. It's a hard pass from Dad.
Mamacita.
Oh my God.
You know, but they're like, she's spicy. But it's that lack of inhibition, you know, where as much as I try to be free, I also I'm super sweet, and then I drink, and the part of me that's like, no, you punch him in the fucking neck.
Yeah, that's when it comes out. Yeah.
So, because me normally, no. Like, somebody runs me over the store, and I'm like, oh, sorry, you ran me over.
Sorry about being in your way.
Thank you for the gift.
So, it's just that type of energy always going on, where I'm just like, I've always said, like, I'm the type of person who could order steak and get chicken, and I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, yes.
Thanks for the chicken, it's fine.
That's how Elle is, totally, too.
I'm also the person, though, who thinks that if I send it back, they're going to spit all over my steak, so I don't want it.
You and Elle should be friends. No, I feel like the world needs more of that, though. Like, I get so frustrated with simplistic answers, because a good mentor of mine who was one of the people that made it possible for me to graduate, because I actually was almost kicked out of college because I went to a Christian institution where it was against the rules to be gay. Fun fact, there was 2 staff members, and they know exactly who they are, and they may be watching right now. They know exactly who they are. They looked me in the eyes and they said, we will stay until you get your degree. And the day that I got my transcript, they sent in their resignation letters. They kept me there. Like, they made it safe for me to be there, so they did what they could in that space.
Yes.
But the world needs more people like that are loving with abandon within administrative systems, that are loving with abandon within Social Security clerks, you know, that are loving with abandon in this, you know, whatever area it is, because like that's what will change the world. And there's no simplistic answers. But what my mentor friend told me was like, you've got to be comfortable with living in the questions. And I think to go a step further, you've got to be in love with living in the questions. You have got to be like, this world's a mess, but we can totally do it and do better. And we can do it together instead of separate. And we can do it with love instead of hate. Like, that's what we have to do, and that's what we have to create. We have to, if you believe in the Bible, the purpose of Christianity is to, you know, we pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. That literally means like, yo, let's make it better here now instead of waiting until the end. It's like, this religion is not an insurance policy for later. It has to fucking matter now. Like, we have to be responsible to bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth. We have to be responsible for bringing shalom to earth. We have to be responsible for bringing shalom to the bathroom design of high schools in rural America.
Well, and I do. I think that's super important. But I also feel like we also just, as a people, need to put down walls and allow ourselves to say, hey, I've screwed up in this way or in that way, or like, you know, I've done this or I've done that, or, you know, because I talked to somebody once and they were like, well, you know, I'm just with what I'm doing, I can't come back to God. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And, you know, it was like that OnlyFans type situation. I'm like, I used to be a phone sex operator. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're not hurting other people, if you're not hurting other people and hurting yourself, you don't need to change anything. And if you are hurting other people and or hurting yourself, God still loves you, and come and you will be healed. Don't think, I hate when people feel, it breaks my heart when they're like, let me clean my own ass up and then come home. And it's like, no, that's not what you have to do. Just come home.
Yeah,
just show up. And the things that need to fall away from your life, like I said, if you're doing something to yourself or to other people, or just, they will fall away. They'll stop being important. And the things that don't fall away, there's a reason that you're like, oh, this is okay for me to do this. And I think I get asked all the time, Mama, do you love me if? But I'm furry, but I'm a pup, like anything in kink world, but I'm poly, but I'm this, and I'm like, I don't know how to say more. Unconditional love is unconditional love. And if it's a part of your life you feel guilty for, because it's there, because you were harmed, it's usually this cycle. There are people who have, I'm just gonna, you know, different kinks in the world that aren't coming from pain, but for a lot of them it comes from pain. And so just come. Just come back to God. Start praying again. Start loving. You have to work through your shit.
Yeah.
25-year-old me was a hot fucking mess.
Yes, yes.
She was such a mess. He met 27-year-old me, and she was a hot mess. You know, and it's, this isn't religion, but here I go, yes. How old was I? You were 21, I was 27. No.
Oh, snap.
I'm 6 years older than
Cougar,
you.
cougar hunter.
Yep, mark this day, guys. I just messed up.
So, you're so funny. But I was a mess. I was a mess from, I am a childhood sexual abuse survivor. And so I spent a lot of my sexual years being like, the lights have to be off, it has to be rough, this can't be emotional, don't look me in the eyes. I didn't look him in the eyes on our wedding day. He literally said that to me that night. He's like, I love you, but, I would say but means forget everything I just told you, here's what I mean.
Right.
He's like, you didn't look me in the eyes. Because I couldn't.
Right.
Because the person I was so damaged that I couldn't have that side of myself. I was always going to have control. I was always going to, but at the same time, shy away from certain things. The lights are off.
Right.
You know, and so I just think it takes unpacking and healing and going through things and talking through those horrible subjects to be able to see that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons that I put all that stuff out there when people, I've had family members and they're like, I can't believe you said that. And not like I'm telling on them, just about myself. Like, dude, that's your skeleton. Why is it out of your closet?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, because what you didn't see is the 300 messages I just got that said, somebody abused me too. I did this too. And I couldn't forgive myself. How could you forgive yourself for whatever the situation is? Yeah. And when I talked about the sexual abuse, it wasn't just it happened. It's that I was silent. And my parents were home for months. This went on. My parents were home. My door was open, and I kept my mouth shut. Had I ever opened my mouth, it would have stopped immediately. My father and my brother were in that home. It would have stopped. It was a family friend. But I just stayed silent until he moved away. And that was what had me messed up. It wasn't that it happened. It happened. I didn't love that it happened. But it was that I had this guilt.
So it was that part of it.
That I didn't open my mouth. So what did that mean? And so when I talked about that, that was a part that just, not just people saying, wow, thank you for talking about it, and I went through that too, but the people who messaged, and it was interesting because those people DM'd me, they didn't put it in a comment, and said, I never talked either, and I feel like such crap for it. And so I just think that if we stop being afraid and start being who we are, unapologetically, and saying, yes, this is my trauma, this is what I went through, this is where I fucked up, this maybe wasn't the best life decision, which is why I tell you not to make that life decision.
Right. Not judging you, just passing some info along.
Yeah, you know, people ask all the time, they're like, what's your best life or relationship advice? And I'm like, put your pants on. Put your pants on. Yeah. And it's just because I did that way more times than I want to, that he would ever want me to talk about. That it's just, if you are not attached, if you are not head over heels, like in love, and I'm not talking about damn you look good or this feels good, but I'm talking about there is this human connection. If you can't just stare at somebody in their eyes and be comfortable in that space, being alone with them, and literally just looking into their soul and talking in that moment and saying, I love you and you're amazing and you're perfect, then you have no business with your pants being off.
Yeah, that's a hard spot because I understand logically that some people can have sex without attachment. That's not like how I'm wired. I'm too squishy.
Neither am I.
I'm too squishy. But I understand, right?
I used to be that way.
Yeah,
and now I'm not. It was literally a switch that I was like, oh wait, this is love.
Yeah, and that's so. He who shall not be named in queer circles said, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? Don't be a transphobe. But like, it's so true. Like, there's a fullness of love that you can't understand until you love yourself. And you can't love yourself until you face the scary parts. Yeah. And you can't love yourself until you deal with them. And deal with them doesn't erase them, but it takes, like, we're only as sick as our secrets, and it takes away the shame, right? Because it happened, I am not this. You know, I am not this, this happened, right?
To me.
Right. Or I did this, but I am not this. You know, it can't go so far. But there's a fullness of, there's an authenticity and a fullness of love that can only come when you love yourself. Yes. And you have to be able to, in order to better love those around you, you have to be able to face those parts of you. I actually got this tattoo on my arm right here. There's a dove on my arm.
Yes.
And I got that tattoo because I in the Bible, like Jesus's ministry started by being baptized by John in the Jordan and a dove descending on him. First of all, Jesus being baptized in the Jordan was a big fuck you to the establishment because you had to pay to be baptized in a special pool, and Jesus was like, I got a river, bitches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Jesus was already an anarchist at that moment. Let us clear this up. Jesus was a black or brown anarchist, okay? Who was murdered by the government for his beliefs, just so we're clearing that up. But in the Jordan, when Jesus was being baptized, a dove descended on him, and that's when Jesus' earthly ministry started, according to the Bible. And
I have to add something to that I'm surprised you didn't state. When you're talking about Jesus being a black anarchist that was murdered by the government, let's not also forget the fact that they had to create a sentence for him.
Yeah, true. The layering of that story. This is why I like the Bible. This is why it's the living word of God. But a dove came down on Jesus, and his earthly ministry started. And I got this after I came out. Because I feel like for me, any ministry that I've had in earnest, I've been involved in ministry since I was a fetus. And I've done things, and I've built churches, and I've preached, and I've traveled, and all this stuff before. But once I came out, I felt like my ministry started in earnest. Because I loved myself enough at that point that I could actually fully begin to love other people. It's very hard to love other people like this when you're guarding your own heart, right?
Oh, yes.
Like there's a barrier there. So like you can't really hug someone really well if you're keeping your heart protected. You know, you gotta like be all in there. You've got to have your stuff out in the open. And I think that amount of vulnerability and that authenticity, that speaks to the people that are watching you. You know what I mean?
It does. And I also I'm still trying to figure out, I love doing what I'm doing because I've always been one-to-one. You know, Charlie would find me, round me up 2 gay kids a year. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I would get to have them in my life. And so now I get to have hundreds of thousands of them in my life, and it just makes my heart glow. But also like that journey of, and it's hard because overall, like so many want my attention, but then also there's people who rise to the top of that for whatever reason they were pulled out of and placed right in front of me.
Right in front of you, yeah.
And when I'm trying to help them, a lot of it is that. I'm playing these 2 games. One, I'm walking through, let's unpack your shit. Let's and that comes in with them being like, I'm hurting. I had a panic attack. I had this. Okay, well, what happened?
Right.
Why are you like this?
Right.
And of course, it always fucking goes back to what shitty thing did your parents do?
Right.
And so how do we heal from that and realize that that's, like you said, that's not us.
Right.
That's not who we are. That's what we did, what happened, whatever. That's not who we are. And so we have to unpack that and say, oh, that's toxic. So we don't behave this way towards that anymore. And then on the flip side of that is gaining that confidence. It's okay to be beautiful. It's okay to love qualities about yourself.
Absolutely.
It's okay to do that. And I think so many people, I was just talking to somebody that I really love about this, and they're just like, well, I feel guilty if I'm like, because I'm looking at this human. It was the person who was in here with me.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going, you're fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, just as a human specimen, damn.
Yeah.
And you're just like, no, this is trash.
Right. You're like, no.
And I'm like, okay, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And it's okay And then they're like, well, I have good hair. And I'm like, no. Let's talk about what's really going on.
Move a little deeper.
Here. Yeah. And so, like, what do you put out in the world? Not just your physicality, but what are you putting out in the world? Be proud of who you are.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that unpacking of both those things.
Yeah.
You need to get rid of all these traumas, and at the same time, it's really hard to get rid of your trauma, especially when you're dealing with your family, because your family literally created you to comfort the way they fuck you up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, we're a product of our environment, one way or another.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And so,
even if our parents were well-intentioned, they're human. They're fallible.
Yeah, I fuck my kids up every single day.
I know. My dad used to always be like, "Oh, I'm just giving you something to talk about in counseling," and I was like, "Thanks, Dad. Appreciate that. Would have been bored without it."
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is people will always say, they're like, "Oh my God, your kids are so lucky." I'm like, no, they're tired of my shit.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yes.
Like, yes, I completely accept them no matter what their gender or sexuality, but get your motherfucking shoes off my carpet.
Oh my God, yes.
It's like, it's just that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still hard to deal with.
Yeah.
I still have anxiety. I had to apologize because of this. I've been a nutbag all day long.
Oh.
And it's just who I am.
Yeah, just working through.
So like, I was like, this morning I was talking to a friend and I'm like, I have a thing to do at 6, so I'm putting my makeup on at 11 because old me would have been crying in front of the makeup mirror at 4.
Right.
And so I've learned,
working a little bit.
to do that earlier.
Yep.
I also had a bunch of stuff I had to do and realized that what I needed to do was put in headphones, listen to music, and just rest for an hour.
Yeah.
Because I had to calm all that down.
Yeah.
But that's on growth. Like, I know who I am. It doesn't fix me.
No.
I still get anxious. I still feel this way or that way. But I know how to unpack my own shit.
Yeah, you can more effectively be you with that knowledge.
Yes.
Like above all else, guard your heart, for it is a wellspring of life. Like, it has to be your heart. Like, you can't try to be me, and I can't try to be you. I would be ineffective in that way. And so you have to know yourself, who God created you to be, and then be the best version of that. And the best version of that is never perfect.
No.
But it is the best, right? There's a difference between perfection and excellence.
Well, I wasn't the person, I did not coin this. I can't remember the comedian or whoever preacher that said it, but I love when it was a black man. I remember that much from the YouTube video or whatever it was. And he was like, Jesus was perfection and they killed him. So what the fuck are you trying to be?
Yo.
Why? And the other thing that I think about when Jesus was here is I, as a mother, I think about, it's me and Sean. And he's, got a pack of children in a house, and he's like, I have spanked them, I have set them on fire, I have
intentionally?
I have wiped them all the way out and made new ones, and they keep fucking up. Can you go in there? That's what happened. So Jesus shows up, and seriously, he shows up and he watches, and he's talking the same way. Oh, let's not jump on the couch. Let's not do this. Don't hit each other. Don't bite each other. You can't do that. You can't do this. You can't eat rat poison. Like the whole thing, right?
New Sermon on the Mount.
And so Jesus shows up and he's trying to find, okay, what's Dad pissed about? Let me fix the things Dad's pissed about because Dad's pissed, and we don't need him to wipe everything clean again.
Yes. Yeah.
So he goes and he tries and he tries and he tries, and then in the end he's like, you know what? Fuck this. They cannot help themselves. They can't.
Yeah. That's so deep. Like, Jesus was perfection and they killed him.
Yeah.
So how are you holding yourself to a different standard?
You can't.
You can't. You literally cannot.
And you have to realize that, he came here and everybody couldn't be perfect around him. So many people want to change their environment. How do I get my parents to understand? How do I get this? How do I get that? Once again, Jesus couldn't do that. He couldn't fix the people, so he had to say, we have to do this differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what happened.
Yeah.
I will just lay down my life, because a lot of times it's like, well, this is what happened to him, and because of that. But it's like, but he struck that deal with his dad. I will lay down my life.
Yeah.
They can't fix themselves.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm telling you, this ain't getting solved. Can we work out a new deal? And that deal was that he gave himself for us.
And we just have to follow that example.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Done. End it right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we're done.
Okay, we're done. It's all done. No, it's so true though. Like, Jesus, like, they can't hit the mark.
No.
Let me hit it for them. And then, like, let's just try to get them to be as much like me as possible. You know what I mean? That's so insightful. You made me thinking about that for like a minute.
That's basically, and that to me, that is what religion is. That is what Christianity is. It's, listen, you can't be Jesus, but can you try to do what he did as much as you can?
As much as possible.
And that's why people ask me, they're like, do you really think this? Are you just trying to be cool? Are you just going for the clout?
Right.
Do you really I'm like, bitch, I am staking my eternal soul on
All
this.
of it. Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. For those of us who come from a Christian background, particularly like an evangelical Christian background, to be like, it's okay to be gay is to risk everything.
Everything.
Like, for me to come out, in order for me to come out, I had to rationalize and I had to intellectualize and emotionally process the fact that I would literally be cutting myself off from my family and my friends, and most importantly, my sense of calling and my sense of vocation.
Yes.
I had to lay all of that down on the altar and say, it is, even if I lose these things, it is so much more important for me to be my authentic self.
Yes.
Luckily, damn, I forgot the Hebrew name. Is it like Jehovah Jireh, God who provides or something? But God, the God who provides, right? Like, has brought these things back into my life. I love my mom to death. My mom's side of the family is like always there for me. I've made a beautiful family with Elle. I'm just now stumbling back around into a sense of vocation. I applied to seminary last week. Yay! Yay! So like, I'm coming around to that now, but I had to lay it down and be like, it's more important for me to come out. And I think sometimes people don't realize the cost of coming out when you are from an evangelical background. And I would probably go so far as to say that it would be similar if you were Muslim as well. And I don't know about Jewish people, to be honest. I'm gonna have to get with some people.
Yeah,
but if you come from a religious background, particularly a Judeo-Christian background, you have to be willing to say, like, I might lose everything else, but at the end of the day, like, I will be whole.
Yes. And that's the thing is, I have just recently, I'm always adding new things to what I talk about and speak on, and I've just recently added, you cannot come out without losing shit.
Yeah.
You will lose things. Just like, I'm a mom, I am already known as the gay mom. You can't live where we live and they don't know who I am.
Right. Yeah.
So there were people whose kids were allowed to play with my kids, knowing that Charlie was Charlie and that I supported Charlie. But when Jaden came out, decided to bow out. And at first I was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, well, when my kid in Erie was gay, they didn't have to explain that to their 10-year-old.
Right.
But if they want Jaden to come over and their child now needs to know new pronouns and a new name, now it's not okay.
Oh, that's so frustrating. Why is this 2020?
Yeah, right?
Also, Jaden's cute as hell.
Isn't he?
I'm just saying. Yeah, no, it will cost you something to come out, period. And you have to be okay with it. But I've found, for me personally, like I said, like in anything, the biggest, deepest, most profound, most meaningful experiences of my life have happened since I've come out. They've happened since I decided to say this is who I am. They've happened since I decided to start living from my authentic self. It's not my perfect self. It's not my infallible self. Or it's not my infallible self. It's my authentic self.
Yeah.
And that changes everything. And I think that's why it's so important that people do have a safe space to come out, because it is really hard to be yourself with one hand tied behind your back. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that's the power in what you're doing, is that, like, you, by just being your authentic self, are setting other people free to be their authentic self. And it's a chain reaction, and it's a whole ripple effect that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that with every follower that's added and everything that you do and every person that messages you. And that's how you change the world. Like I don't even know how to say it any better than that. Like that's how you change the whole world right there, is by doing that. You know what I mean? I would like to. Ooh, I got some comments. I'd like to open it up to a few questions before we kind of wrap up.
That's fine.
Everybody's okay
That's
with that.
fine.
So I'll field some off of Facebook, and if anybody has any questions in TikTok land, Dado will read them to us. We are going to try to get to them, but I know that they will come in from my literal tens of viewers.
That might turn into a hot mess.
But if you can grab a question out of there and you have it, let us know. So anyone who's watching on Facebook land, you can question. And anyone who's watching on TikTok land, you can question. There's multiple comments on here but I carried shame for so many years. Thank you guys for talking about this. I'm glad as a society that we're beginning to value unpacking a lot of things. Yes.
Absolutely.
Somebody on here is asking, has Leo ever dealt with imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. I think that for me, when I interpret imposter syndrome, it's like, who am I to be doing this, right? And I definitely have felt that before because like my skill sets and my personality traits lend me to look very confident. I am a Leo, like I embody all that is Leos if you're thinking astrologically. But there are still some days where I'm like, yep, didn't do that very well. Like why do I have the microphone right now? But at the end of the day, through a lot of counseling, I have come to accept and know and love myself enough to know that my intentions are pure and true, and like this is why I'm doing it. I actually had that conversation with my counselor this week because she was reassuring me, like, you are doing this for the right reason. Because that's been a popular thing lately, is for people to question my agenda and my personality and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and am I doing it to be visible? This is something that I've been under attack for recently, like real recently, from people real close to this building. And I have to, it's like I have to put myself on trial to make sure that I am doing and saying what I need to do and be, and that I'm not in it for the clout. I'm not a clout chaser. I'm not an ego chaser. And it is hard because some days the only person telling you that your intentions are pure will be you. Most days it's also Elle and my counselor, but I've definitely absolutely dealt with that. But at the end of the day, you have to guard your heart. Like, you were made for a purpose, and if it's the thing that keeps you up at night and wakes you up in the morning, and someone's giving you crap for doing that, they're probably jealous of your thing.
Well, and I've had to learn with what I'm doing. I have people in my life who build me up, and if I talk about wanting to do this or that, then they're like, oh, that's great, that's amazing. Or an opportunity comes up, they're like, absolutely, that's so cool, you should do it. Mm-hmm. And then I had, that's important to say, people in my life who would say, well, you were on the live, but you missed somebody who needed you. Mm-hmm. Why did they call? Like, what exactly are you gonna say? Like, they want you to come speak. Well, what are you gonna talk about? What, like, why? And mm-hmm. why do you feel like you could talk on that? Mm-hmm. You talk to parents. Like, what makes you an expert? Mm-hmm. And so I've realized that isn't a reflection of me being in my head that I'm so special. That's a reflection of their insecurity. And if they can't fix that, then they need to go figure out their business, but not in my space.
That is literally what my counselor has said. And that's something that I think you have to learn when you're doing anything public or being a leader of anything. You have to learn what is constructive feedback, and frequently that will come from your inner circle, but you cannot listen to the cheap seats.
Yeah.
You cannot listen to the cheap seats because someone's probably jealous that they're in the cheap seats and you're where you are. And that's not to glorify it. It is not fun to be me, particularly. It takes a lot of bricks and a lot of shots in my thigh and a lot of counseling, and I almost lost Elle. It's not fun to be this person, but I am happy to be this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's important.
So Alicia would like to know, in such a conservative area, have you had more positive or negative feedback about your message of acceptance?
So I have had Neither.
All right.
So I've had a couple really negative things happen. I've had Child Protective Services and the police on my doorstep because, since I like my gay kids, I also must just be a horrible parent. And I've had like those little things happen. And just the same, I've had some really amazing moments where someone's just been like, "Oh my God, are you Mama Jill?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I am."
Yeah, right. Like, oh shoot, that's me.
So there's been a handful of those things, but in general, because we're in a conservative area, I don't have a bunch of people knowing who exactly I am. And because I am very firm with who this person is, and I know how powerful I am, and I have no problem. I will tell anybody if they're like, "Well, aren't you scared?" I'm like, the only creature on this planet more powerful than me is nobody, because it's God. And so I have no problem being me. So I also don't get approached with, like, you might hate on me in your kitchen over a cup of coffee with your girlfriend, but you will not say shit to my face.
Absolutely. Which once again speaks of someone's character versus your character in the moment. I think I will say this about Olean. I have seen some real hate here, but I will tell you that there are very few times that I have felt unsafe in Olean. And I transitioned very visibly because I used to work for the newspaper. So most people that know me knew me, but pre-transition. And I have transitioned in this town, and I have experienced more love than I have hate in this town.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and even at our weekly protests at the roundabout, I have experienced more honks of support than middle fingers, which surprised me. But I joke about Olean being the cultural center of this region, but maybe we are. Like, maybe we're doing something. You know what I mean? So I do have to give credit where it's due. Like, I was pretty surprised about that. Duke Center, Shingle House, maybe a different situation, but the 12 miles makes a huge difference. So. Someone asked here, and I would love to talk about this, so I'm going to bring it up. Do you have a local church that you attend that feeds your soul?
So I had to make the decision when Jaden came out to leave my church.
Okay.
So because of where we live, there's not a lot of choices in church, and so we had gone around and around and around to here and there and here and there, and found one where we didn't necessarily, there were people in the congregation we loved, and people in the congregation we knew were not our people, but we absolutely loved the pastor and his message. However, when Jaden came out, I was faced with the fact that he could not be him there. We were not asked to leave. I literally messaged and talked to the preacher's wife and was like, "We are leaving." And she said, "I need you to know you're welcome to stay." But it was a choice I was not going to say to a room full of evangelical Christians, a couple hundred of them, now teach your kids about my son. I think that kind of goes with that compromise stuff. Like, if we don't have to fight a battle, why would we have to?
Yeah, unless you're called to that battle.
Well, and the thing is, I don't get to choose that a 12-year-old boy is that weapon that I take up, because to me, it would change his relationship with God if he walked in and was told that God didn't love him, and one of those fuckers would have said it.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
They
probably would have said it loudly on a Facebook message or video.
Yeah. So we have gone to a church here in town, and I can't remember exactly. It's on 4th Street.
Okay.
You don't know either? Okay.
Was it a mainline church? Like, was it like a liturgical church?
I think it's a Lutheran church.
Okay, there is 2 Lutheran churches in town.
Okay.
Is it by Oak Hill Park?
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's Emmanuel Lutheran.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've gone there a handful of times.
Okay.
It's just it's a weird environment. Not there, it's a weird environment. It's a weird environment because COVID.
Yeah.
So everybody's in masks, and the service is less than what it normally would be. But there is a great resource, no matter where you live, called gaychurch.org.
Okay.
That's where I found them.
Okay.
And so wherever you live, if you're in the United States, if you type in your zip code, it'll give you affirming churches in your area. And so I don't know if that will be our new church. I also don't know if there's any other churches in Olean that would also be affirming, because if they are, they're not on gaychurch.org.
So, gay church, I'm going to be looking at this for my own personal curiosity, looking up every zip code in the region, just because I want to know, as someone who may or may not be starting a church in the future. But I will say, and I'm not sure if you saw this, but I have like the biggest news to hit Olean in a long time, other than yourself. I think it was 2 Sundays ago, we had a justice rally at the park in Olean. Had a bunch of local service providers, and the theme, coming together around the theme of racial, of social, economic justice, right? And the president of the Greater Olean area of churches came up and proudly declared that Greater Olean area churches, as an organization, that they support Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ people.
Oh, that's amazing.
I almost pooped my pants. And so it is important to note that the Angry McYelly Pants pastors in this area will not be part of the Greater Olean area of churches, because they seem to feel that they've gone astray. But the Greater Olean area of churches, typically of the member churches, are the more older, more established versions. And so the pastor that did speak was Kim Rossi from, she presides over Bethany Lutheran and St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. And so there are those 2 options. She is the minister of them. I was an aspirant, which is like someone who's pursuing ordination. I was an aspirant through St. Stephen's for a while. They were great. They were old, but they were great. There is, to my knowledge, there's no contemporary churches here that are LGBTQ friendly. There are some who will placate you, but when you dig below the surface, they're not LGBTQ friendly. But I thought it was revolutionary for an ordained minister in Olean who is in a position of speaking for a bunch of local churches and saying we support Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ people. Because there are so many that said nope, and she was like, yep.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah, and I think it needs to happen, and it needs to happen. So I hope that conversations can be that space. I hope it can grow into something. I'm talking to some people about some things, but it is so good to know that there are some people here. So, and I'm really glad to know about Gay Church. I didn't even know about that. So
I was just told over here that Church Clarity is also a good website.
Oh. Church Clarity?
Yeah.
Cool.
I didn't know about that one.
I'm going to put that one in the comments here. Does anybody else on there have any questions? Everybody here is just watching with rapt attention.
Does anybody have a question for Mama Jill or Leo?
I know I've seen your lives, and they usually fly by so fast that I'm like, how do you even watch those comments?
I just have to pick.
A lot of them have gotten into this, the mood here, and are just kind of
watch it. I think that's what's happening here.
Love to one another, which is great.
That's fantastic.
Well, and I can kind of talk about that. If you come up with a question, great. And if you don't, then we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
I get asked all the time, can I be adopted? Will you adopt me? Will you adopt me? Will you adopt me? And so my rules for adoption, I didn't bring my adoption bopper. I got to get better at this.
You have an adoption bopper?
Around here, I'm sure you'll find something that'll be for tonight.
You could totally find a bopper here.
Yeah. But it's just, I always say, but if you want to be adopted into the Mama Jill Wallace family,
how heavy is that?
We'll talk about that in a minute.
That would be some serious bopping. That you have to promise to do 2 things. One is to show up.
Okay.
So not just in the lives, but on the page or in the, and it's about being in the comments. So that when somebody says, I need help, I don't know what to do, I'm trying to come out, like, especially for people who are like, I've watched every single one of your lives since March. I'm like, then get in the fucking comments.
Yeah, then jump in the
and
conversation.
start answering, because you know what I would say. You know if somebody says, I need to come out, my parents are Christian, I'm 15, what my answer is. It's stay in the damn closet. You know what I mean? Like, you know those things. So that's my first thing. My second thing is that you have to promise, and this is the harder one, to show up when you're hurting. Before you do anything to yourself, especially, you show up and you say, I need love today, and you get it. Which, I wanted to tell you about this. It's like a little sidebar, because I really hope that we're able to do something for youth in the area.
Yes.
I really want to start something with that.
There is someone watching who I
Okay.
want to sync you up with.
And I don't even care if it's that I bring my little gay kid and there's like 2 or 3 kids that we start with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's definitely, I think, one of those build it and they will come things.
Yes, yeah.
But one of the favorite supportive things that I've seen played in that type of supporting scenario is a game called Get, Give, or Pass.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think I have.
So it's great with teenagers that know each other and do care about each other. And so you go around and you say, and they have to say either get, give, or pass.
Okay.
Like truth or dare.
Okay.
If they say get, it means that they need a compliment. They need love. And so when they say get, the beautiful thing is you watch these other teenagers be like, your outfit looks amazing. I love the type of friend that you are. You're beautiful. You are this. And so they are just, you know, and it's a way to start them to say, oh, I need love.
Right.
We're so scared as humans to be like, somebody needs to love me, please.
Yeah, yeah.
If they say give, it means that they have something, so they'll say give, and then just, you know, Leo, I absolutely love that shirt today.
It's a fabulous.
You've
And
had
then-
a lot of compliments on me.
Oh, thank you.
You can also just say pass, like I'm out of this. And I love that game. I've done it with my kids at home. I've done it with groups of teenagers because I think it also teaches that, like, respect if somebody needs to be in their own space right now. Be willing to give compliments. Be willing to put your hand up.
Yeah, that's
and
powerful.
say, love me. And I will do that with babies. I will do that. There's some that I talk to either in real life, on Messenger, and I will tell them, love me. I'm feeling down today. How are you? I don't always try to be, woohoo, I'm so great. I'm shooting rainbows out my butt. Because that's not me every day.
It's not every day.
And so I'm okay with saying love me because I want them, because then they'll be like, oh my God, Mama, how could you be down? Like, you're so whatever. It fills my heart with joy, and it also teaches them it's not weak, it's not stupid, it's not full of yourself to just say, I need love.
Yeah, that's modeling some really good, healthy relational behavior.
Yeah.
A question on here for you, Leo.
Yeah.
How did you start using your pronouns, and how did that look for you? This person's wanting to start and trying to get a heads up. On
Okay, cool. So I will let you know an answer when I have it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So for me, using my pronouns has been interesting because I was very publicly a female because of working for the newspaper. And then I transitioned and people like saw, I had the same goatee as Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. It was atrocious. I feel like so many trans men go through this phase where you just have the like youth pastor pedo goatees. Happens to everybody. Okay, it's not even just, well, it's just weirder because it happened to me when I was like, you know, almost 30. Like it wasn't expected anymore.
Right, gotcha.
And so people vacillated, and to be honest, I isolated for a while. I played women's softball in town, and there was this big meeting if I should be allowed to play or shouldn't be allowed to play, and I was still very in a gray area because I was barely on testosterone, you know. So I fell out a little bit, and then when I like reintroduced myself into the public eye, I was Leo. I was fortunate enough to have moved into a new job at that point. So I, from the start, was he, him, and HR was literally not allowed to tell anybody that I wasn't he, him. Right. So I had the benefit of having like an institutional system that was supporting that at that point in my life. But for me, it's been more interesting to come out using they, them. Because I don't have an institutional background, and culturally there's not a huge framework for non-binary people. So I'm actually, just in the past maybe, I would say maybe 8 to 10 months, I've started asserting they, them. And so I'm not offended by he, him, but I do prefer they, them. And then so what I do is when I am relationally close enough to explain that to somebody, I will tell them I prefer they, them, and then they're accountable for it. But I don't hold a stranger on the street accountable for it because they might not understand yet. So I try to base it off of a relational status with people, so I can explain it to them.
I think that is such a beautiful way because sometimes I struggle with that when somebody has they, them pronouns. I've talked to people and said, well, have you thought about like publicly using she, her, he, him? and reserving they, them for people that are close.
Yes.
And they think that I'm trying to tell them to climb back in the closet.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm just like the cashier at Walgreens doesn't give a fuck.
Yep.
And so if they say sir, you don't need to be like, it's they, them pronouns and
you're opening yourself up
human.
for hurt, and you're giving someone else too much power.
Yes.
Because like they might not know. And so for me personally, this is something that I learned actually through a safe zone training, which was a training that I took when I worked in the nonprofit world, where I would go and train other agencies about how to be safe space.
Okay.
And so I learned there that you have to assume good intention in a room when you're talking about a difficult topic. And so I assume good intention until people show me otherwise. So if someone asks me with a genuine tone or a genuine question, what are your pronouns? How do you identify? I will engage that conversation. But the flip side of that is I will not give that energy to the cashier at Walgreens.
Yes.
Because I might not have it to give that day, so it's easier to be him, he, him. Or someone on the interwebs, maybe from Olean in the past couple of weeks, will refer to me as a he, she. They do not deserve my attention. They do not deserve my energy. So my energy goes to the people who have good intent, and because I'm me and a general optimist and golden retriever of a person, I assume good intent initially until you show me otherwise. Yeah. And when you show me otherwise, you're out. Because I also can't allow that energy in my life right now.
I think that just answered your question.
Hopefully. I don't know, I like to say a lot of words, so hopefully some of them are good. It's like a ratio game here, right? Like if you say so many words, what's the batting average here? Like what is it like under a 500 batting average and you're an amazing batter?
Yeah, it's funny.
Somebody was asking earlier what's seminary.
Seminary. Oh, cool. Seminary is for like people who are super nerdy and religious.
Right. I think they were more trying to get what specific religious title you were going for yourself.
Cool. So seminary is graduate school for people who want to work in the church, in like a mainline evangelical or mainline church, not an evangelical church. They don't care. You could be a cop for all they care. So seminary is graduate school for someone who wants to work in the church. There are a couple different paths that you can go down throughout going to seminary. I personally will be pursuing a master's of divinity, which will grant me the ability to be ordained. So I'm already ordained thanks to a $30 check in the Universal Life Church. Not a real ordination. So I would like to go for my Master's of Divinity. I'm looking at a dual program that's a Master's of Divinity, Master's in Social Work, because then I could be a licensed mental health practitioner and a reverend. I'd also like to get my PhD, so I could be Dr. Reverend, because both of those are gender neutral.
Yes.
Actually, to the state of New York, I've been Dr. Reverend for a long time because I'm real sassy. And if they don't have the right, like if they don't have a gender neutral salutation, I am either doctor or reverend because you don't get to gender me with your salutation. So I'm Dr. Leo Walters Tahira or Reverend Leo Walters Tahira if you don't give me a box to pick under.
I like
Anyways.
that.
Non-gendered, it's non-gendered, right?
Yeah. That's what you gave me.
Yeah.
I have a question on here, but I'm going to expand it a little bit.
Okay.
How did you pick and test your name?
Cool. Actually, my beautiful, lovely, intelligent, spiritual wife, Elle. I say all of those things, and then she's like, "Shut up! You're so embarrassing." I'm like, "But you are all of those things." Elle actually named
That's
me.
a heck of a name tag. Just so.
I know, right? It's a lot of things to say, but like I said, if you say a lot of words, some of them have to be good.
Yes.
Elle actually named me. I owe so many things in my life to my partner, not the least of which being my actual name, and the greatest of which being the person who I am today. Because being in a relationship with Elle has been the most trying, testing, hard, difficult, life-giving, amazing, beautiful thing. Because she said, like, I see you, and I'm calling you out. And ironically, she never called me by my birth name, ever. Like, she just never did. She gave me a nickname from the beginning. One of them was Buddha, and the other was Leo. So thankfully, Leo is the one that stuck. But for me, always in my family was I called Leo. My kids only know me by Leo. My spouse only knows me by Leo, and I have just been Leo since I've been in Tahira. So as long as I've been in my family now. So there was no real testing, it just fit. And ironically, before I knew I was trans, I was performing as a drag king, and my persona for drag was Leo. Leo Casanova, if you want to know fully. And this tattoo that's on the side of my head, I think this is the right one.
Yes.
This is the one that says Leo. L, before every drag show, L would write Leo on my head with like eyeliner or a Sharpie, like it was part of my drag costume. And so I actually, this is Elle's handwriting. She drew it on my head, and then the tattoo artist tattooed it. So literally, like, I wouldn't be the person I am today without her, and without her love, and without her support, and without her literally calling me out from the void and saying, like, you're there, I see you, come forth, kind of. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so she picked, no pressure for me. But I did, it was a real swing and a miss for me when I did change my name legally that I didn't make it Leonard. Because I could have really done something there with Leonard, but nope, it's just Leo. So my kids do call me Leonard or Leonardo when they're being silly, so, or they call me shitbrains, one or the other. You just
There you
know.
go. Perfect. I give horrible nicknames to all my children.
Right, I know, right? Like, this is a family thing. It stays in this house, children.
Sad 2021. I work in public education. Should I outright ask students their pronouns or have them tell me themselves?
Ooh.
Now, this is a pretty big question, and I would actually like both of y'all's
It
input on
is.
because you're having to think for a legality.
Exactly. Do you have your pronouns in your profile?
Yes.
This is where it's going to go with this. You go first.
So I believe in normalizing pronouns. That it's okay that if we talk about it, that it's an okay thing. Now, I'm also prefacing this, I don't know what your rules are, both in the state and the school system that you're in. But I think having any type of get to know you questionnaire for your students is super important. I can remember filling them out as a kid and loving them.
Yes.
And I think they should be on an index card, turned in not anonymously, but turned in where like everybody's not reading them, you're not calling anybody out. But simple things, and literally you can do like what name do you prefer to be called? What pronouns would you like me to use? What is something you think I should know about you? You know, because you need to keep it broad. Like you don't want to be like, what's your favorite sport? And then somebody's like, well, I don't play sports, so now, I don't matter if something's wrong.
Yeah.
So just like, what do you think I should know about you? And if all somebody puts is their name, their pronouns, and put nothing below, then you know that there's somebody who also just needs your attention because they couldn't talk to you.
Yes.
So I just think that if it's allowed, that it should always be done. And that it should always, because then you can also help them. I constantly tell kids if they're like, how do I come out at school? And I'm like, to the really fucking cool teacher.
Yes. Yep. That's it. You find that person.
That's who you come out to. And Charlie had one through high school that he called Dad. You know, and it was a young teacher, who was probably 10 years older than Charlie. But he felt safe in his classroom. And so that's important. So that then, if the child that is presenting female in front of you writes he, him, please call me this, you should know this about me, one day I want to transition or something, that you can then, as the adult in the situation, say, hey, do you need help?
Yeah.
Do you have somebody you're talking to? Is your home life safe? Protecting LGBTQ plus children is so important. And we can't always change stuff.
Right.
I have thrown up in a parent's front yard. They weren't gay, but just because they had shitty parents. Like, protecting kids is important. And we need to not be afraid to say, oh, I bet you that sucks at home.
Yeah.
And then not support the child because we're afraid of what the parent's going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's huge. And it's so funny because, like, I love how you answered that because it shows that you're a mom with the passion. Because my brain was saying normalizing, but it went in a total different direction. This is why we make a great team.
Yes.
So that's how you can normalize it with students. And then as a faculty or staff member or teacher, right, you can begin to normalize it institutionally as well, because you can put it in your email signature for your communications. You can bring it up to your principal for your communications, because then not only are you changing the boots on the ground reality for the kids, but you are changing the system of power to be some more supportive at the same time.
Yes, so even I'm saying chalkboard, shut up, I'm old. But
smartboard bullshit.
You know, even putting down Mrs. Wallace, she, her.
Yep.
Or just on the whiteboard immediately is going to let them know.
Exactly.
Oh wait, it looks like I might be safe here.
Yes, because when in schools we recognize this with the Regional Justice Coalition, ORJC, that we've been working with as well. We're interfacing with some teachers on how do we bring racial justice and social justice conversations to school. But the reality that we've come to is there's a twofold reality in school. We're looking at the teachers, but the teachers have to deal with two realities: the students and the faculty and staff and the administration. And so when you're looking at that, that's why my mind went the way it did, is because the teachers are really getting it from all sides, and it's not always good. You know what I mean? So, but the teachers can begin to be empowered to normalize it for students and for administration, and I think that would be really intersectional, right? That is the word of 2020 is intersectional, but an intersectional way to normalize pronouns. If you just put it out there, it's not a mystery. You know what I mean? And if you put it out there, someone else might put it out there. I actually have, since you guys have been here last, we have signs. Where are they? We have signs somewhere in here that say her side and their side. And it's funny because a little boy came in here the other day, and all of Elle's side is white and all of my side is black, just because we like the aesthetic. And we decided that we wanted both of our personalities to be represented. And so this boy came in and he was like, oh, there's a girl side and a boy side. And in my head I was like, don't go all gender studies 101 on him, Leo. Like, he's a small child. Forgive him this moment. Breathe. Because it's not a girl side and a boy side. It's the interplay of femininity and masculinity. It's elevated child. But we have her side, their side here. I have a little pennant flag that says they, them. So we're trying to put it out on in our space so that when people come in, they feel comfortable using it.
Well, and I think I did a TikTok. I don't know if you saw it.
Wait, you do TikTok?
Oh, okay. I did a TikTok recently because I had somebody staying in my home that used they, them pronouns. And I started using them for everybody in the house. To the point that, my cisgender daughters are laughing at me. They're like, Mom, could you call me she?
Like, girl here.
I busted Hagen doing it, by the way.
That's hilarious. But I was like, these are beautiful. I love it. It's everywhere. But at the same time, I had all adult children home and family in town because we had a wedding. And so at the same time, I had two instances, and I'm not going to call out my own family members, where the person was in the other room, and I'm like, oh, well, they're thinking about doing this, and then they're going to do this, and they're like, what the fuck is they?
Get with the program, Susan.
And I'm like, them. And they're like, okay.
Total vulnerable moment. I struggled for the longest time with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, total admittance, it wasn't introduced.
Yeah.
And just kind of
different.
out of nowhere, it became a thing. And it was so hard to grasp.
Yeah.
So, fully being, admitting to that, if I do slip up, I do apologize.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do too. And my pronouns are they, them. And I slipped up with a friend of mine yesterday who was in my chair. But I don't assume bad intention until someone shows it to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Elle is so feminine though. Really funny story about Elle. She is hyper feminine, like the poem Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. That is Elle. It's in the swish of my hips, it's in the click of my heels. I am a phenomenal woman. That is her. And so I occasionally will say they, them, and she's like, she, her. She's so offended because she is so deeply female that she fully understands if she would have been assigned male at birth, she would have transitioned because she's I would have been hell no. This is not right.
Exactly.
If there's any other questions on there, we'll take one or two more, or we'll
Anybody else have a question?
You don't have to bait them.
Or do we? Because that's what we do as
Well, I
people.
guess I'm just getting in trouble tonight. There's another
I'll just say next time conversation with Sean Wallace. That's all I'm saying. Actually, while we're waiting for a question to come in for both Facebook land and TikTok land, we're hoping to do a couple more chats like this. We're hoping to do one. Actually, I sincerely would like to do one with you guys as a couple, and maybe try to bring Ellen, although she's like super introverted. Nothing personal. She just hates all people.
That's okay.
But I'd also like to do a conversation with the Mama Jill Wallace family, like your bio family, or your family that lives in your house. I don't know however you describe that family. But I'd love to do a conversation with them because I want to be like, what is this like behind the scenes? Because that's like the real story. Like when I was a pastor's kid, people would be like, oh, it's so cool that your dad's a pastor. I'm like, no, you don't even fucking know. He snores so loud. Like there's all these little things, but like the humanness of it, I think would be fun to see. Like what does Jaden think? What does Hayden think? You know what I mean? Like I think that'd be really interesting. So if you guys are down, of course. I didn't ask them yet, putting them on the spot.
Well, I'll have to talk to the kids. It's just because like people will say stuff about Jaden. They're like, you're just parading him around. And I'm like, no, I'm pulling his ass back.
Yeah, like he's actually a real person with his own opinions.
Yeah, he would be TikToking on the daily.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
People do that. People say that about my kids too. It's so frustrating. They're like, oh, you're tokenizing your children, and I'm like, they're their own fucking person. Like they're just being themselves.
Yeah.
And I happen to be in proximity to them. Like that's not tokenizing. That's their choice. You know what I mean? But if they're down, I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah, it definitely could be.
Here's one that's quite interesting.
Oh God.
How do you explain to your kids that you're trans?
Yo, it was so simple. I would love to make it out to be complex, but we were having a puberty conversation, and Elle was like, you're dealing with that, and I was like, thanks. And so we were with my two youngest kids, and I was like, oh, actually, this is a real story. I said to my son, he has this really high-pitched squeal that he would do all the time, and I'm like, please stop, it hurts my ears. And so I said, I hope your balls drop soon. And he goes, my balls drop? Do they fall off? And I said, yeah, like bouncy balls. And he was like, ah, like he was horrified, right? But then like through that really ridiculous, terrible parenting moment, I was like, you know, what happens, like, this is part of puberty, this is what happens, and there are these things called hormones that make your body like grow up to be an adult body. And so like generally speaking, boys have testosterone and girls have estrogen. And I had not transitioned at this point. And my daughter looked at me and goes, oh, so you have testosterone? And I was like, oh, funny story. Like, I'm actually going to be starting to take testosterone within the next week. It was just coming up. And she's like, oh, that's cool. Can I play The Sims now? Like, that was the whole conversation. And it was so easy because for us in our house, it's just, unfortunately, like, I love to say this phrase, like, you're not so special. Because ordinarily that sounds like a negative phrase, but like it's really comforting to me to know I'm really not that special. Like there are more people like me, and there are places where I'm safe, and so it's not so special in our house to be gay. We actually had a child come out to us as straight, and Elle and I were like, "What have we done wrong?" Yeah, our daughter.
I think that's the first case we've heard of.
Yeah, our daughter was like,
we joked about that just recently.
Yeah, our daughter was like, "Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you," and we thought she was going to say she was pregnant. She was like, I think I might just be straight. And we were like, oh, the horror! You know what I mean? But like, we've normalized it to that point in our house.
Well, so for us, Hagen, I'm trying to think of how old they were. They were like 3 to 7 years old, I think about there, when Charlie, and he first came out as lesbian. Okay. So when he came out, and we just made the decision that we weren't going to tell the children because it didn't need to be an announcement.
Right, yeah.
It just was.
Yeah.
And so Hagen one day looks at my oldest and said, Charlie's nickname is Beanie, and said, so Beanie likes girls the way that most girls like boys? And Joanne eyeballed me, and I just kind of looked at her, and she went, yeah. And Hagen goes, okay.
Yeah, right? Like
that was it.
Yeah, when you normalize it, it is that simple. Like, can I go play The Sims now? Like, because we've normalized it in our households.
Well, but for us, we really hadn't.
Yeah. You were just like, you were doing it without knowing you were doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, now this time around, even though Charlie's in our family, I've never told my grandchildren that their Uncle Charlie's trans.
Right.
There's 8 grandchildren, and the oldest is 12. This isn't, we don't discuss what's in Uncle Charlie's pants.
Right, for logical, great reasons.
Yeah. So, it just never came up. So when Jaden came out, we were really curious Most of them are 7 and under. We were really curious what was going to happen. But once again, we decided not to sit them down. We just let it happen in conversation. Ava, she's 5, and she said, Auntie Sherry, and Jaden just said, I'm Uncle Jaden now. And she said, no, you're not, Auntie Sherry. And Jaden just left it. Within 48 hours, because she's part of our tribe, she watched the other tribe members accept this person for who they were, and she said, Uncle Jaden, can you help me? So we didn't, I think that's the biggest thing, like, if your kid's a teenager, sit down and have a discussion, you know, if that's going on. But if you have little kids, just be. Just be and answer the questions as they come. But
But you don't need to make it a thing until it's a thing. Like,
don't sit us all down and make us
this
uncomfortable.
huge dramatic announcement. Well, I mean, the gays kind of like to be dramatic. So, like, you can have your big announcement if you want.
I'm not dramatic at all, ever.
Never. Wait, did your eyelashes just brush the camera screen? Like, that's so funny.
Got a little breeze.
That's priceless. Well, I'm gonna say thank you so much for coming tonight. I bought the chairs just to match your eyeshadow. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for allowing me to talk to the fam. Thank you guys for watching on Facebook. I'll be back next week. This is something I'm doing every Sunday on my Conversations page. I do hope, actually, Conversations was my senior capstone project in college of what I would make church be if I was starting a church. So that is my hope. This is how I think church should function, and hopefully someday someone will pay me to think that.
I like that.
But so we meet every Sunday night, so you're more than welcome to join us. You're more than welcome to join us. Say all the things you have to say.
Really quick, before you pass it over, remind everybody how they can find you.
Okay, so I'm Leo WT. That is me everywhere.
And I'm going to I will duet one of their videos later,
perfect.
and then that will give you their TikTok so that you can start following them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Leo WT. That'll be perfect because honestly, I'm just, forgive me, friends, I'm so new to TikTok, but I'm really, really trying. So yeah, find me at Leo WT. Also, if you are on YouTube, I post the weekly videos on there. It's under Conversations with Leo WT, which is the fusion of both brands, Leo WT and Conversations. If you're super old like me and you're on Facebook, because only old people are on Facebook, this is what my son tells me. So, but if you're on Facebook, you can look up Conversations Official and Conversations Official Group. I'm trying to build, similar to what you do in your chats, I'm trying to build a digital dialogue through the group, and then just keep videos in there, and then they're also on the YouTube. I'm on TikTok, trying to do some things. Hopefully this will be a tangible thing very soon. That's like the hope. But until then, we'll continue to meet digitally and see what Miss Rona allows us to do.
Right. And I'm in the Facebook group, so that's another good way to communicate with us as well.
Yeah.
Help get in there and join some conversations.
Yeah, just talk. You're not alone. There are other people who won't judge you. We're going to try to
I have to
out.
state the fact that Leo's foot on this brick that he told the story about earlier is simply iconic.
Yes, it's there. Keeping it.
Defeating the hate right there.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's easy to find me no matter where you want to find me. I'm Mama Jill Wallace everywhere.
Yep.
That was one of the first things I did was I was like, I figured out that I was going to be able to be Mama Jill Wallace, and then I took it everywhere. Even on platforms that I wasn't going to use yet.
Yes.
And I bought the page.
Yep.
I was like, I just went and grabbed everything I could.
That's so funny. I did the same thing with Leo WT. And Elle, because she's fabulous, was the one who first called me Leo WT. When I was in beauty school, she's like, that should be your hashtag. And so from then on, I have just branded everything Leo WT. So I hashtag all of my own stuff with that, from live videos to hairstyles to everything. So I bought the domain name, and I took it on platforms that I don't even use because I didn't want anyone else to get confused.
That's what I did.
So yeah, so branding. Apparently we're on it. But yeah, Leo WT, Mama Jill Wallace. Mama Jill Wallace does have merch, which you guys should check out if you're on Facebook.
Well,
it's
coming out soon.
Well, you have stickers, right?
I do have stickers.
I got 2.
Oh, did you?
I did. I got
was
two.
gonna bring you someone.
Well, can you bring me a white one, please? Because I bought black and all my stuff is black and I'm done.
Yes, I will bring you one. So I do have merch. I also have a Patreon. It is the way that I'm able to, I'm not going back to work. This is what I'm doing with my life from now on. And then when you're on the Patreon with me, you do have the benefits of being in my Facebook group, which is exclusive to that.
Cool.
I go live Monday through Friday, have a cup of coffee, and we chat.
Awesome.
And then, and that's a way to get a lower ratio with me. And then I also do a Zoom call.
Okay, cool.
Depending on the level of Patreon, I would meet with some of them once a week and some once a month.
Awesome, very cool. That's so important. People say all the time, like, oh, you're just on social media. But it's actually a job. You're actually putting in real work. You're putting on real makeup. You're spending real money on cell phone data. You're giving your real emotional self to this platform. And I think it's important for people to know that, like, maybe this is what happens in maybe this is what happens in 2020. Maybe this is activism in 2020. Maybe this is church in 2020. Maybe this is vocation in 2020. You know what I mean?
It is, because people, when I first started, of course, like I said, when you have in the past, naysayers who say, like, well, you're going to charge people to hang out with you. And I'm like, listen, I'm giving people the opportunity to support me so that I can continue doing what I do.
Yes.
Because if I don't, then I'm going to spend 8 to 10 hours somewhere else. Plus 2 or 3 hours decompressing from the trauma of those 8 to 10 hours somewhere else.
Yes,
and you're going to give me about an hour or two a day because my kids are coming first.
Exactly, yeah, because family comes first no matter what. Yeah. It's almost like when you sponsor a missionary or something like that. Like, that's what it's like, and I think people need to realize that, especially for moments and movements like this, right? Because this is an actual work that you are doing. Conversations was also an actual work at one point, and I'm hoping to build back to where that is a thing again. So
I'm excited.
Fingers crossed. So, but thank you guys, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This will be on my YouTube if anybody needs it, and hopefully we'll be back with some more awesome content.
Yes.
Be a good time.
I definitely think there's going to be a part 2.
I'm down for it. I'm here for it, man.
And we get a drink.
Yes, we get to drink next time.
Y'all already heard it.
Next time. Jesus turned water into wine. First official miracle.
There you go.
Done.
Okay. Love you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Love you all.
I want to get